Halo guys, what's up?
빈 선수 일관성 있게 자신감 있는 모습은 보기 좋지만 이번에는 제가 세계 최고의 탑라이너라는 것을 증명해 보이겠습니다.
Ini kan anomali yang sebelum ambil kamera. Bentar. Ini ambil kamera terus kerel kereta udah ambil. Yang bunuh diri maksudnya? Jatuh ke bawah atau kemana?
무섭지 않습니다. 지난번 월즈 때처럼
Jadi gue udah mindahin. Mari tahu mau kasih apa? Itu samurai. Bundir, udah, bundir udah.
Of MSI. I'm Mehdi, that's Mehdi, and in the middle we have our wonderful colleague Mao. The Mehdi, Mehdi, and Mao.
The fuck?
Last time we cast together, we had a banger Game 5 series. I'm hoping for another as G2 and PSG find themselves in the face of elimination. A lot of pressure on both sides as they were both so very close to making an incredible upset happen at this tournament. But one of them will go home today.
Coming in, actually, we're talking about it as well. The biggest difference was that the Game 5, G2 versus T1 still felt very competitive. Unfortunately for PSG, when it came to that home stretch, weren't really able
Tinggal
to...
Nemesis, iya enggak, tinggal yang bow. Aku nggak ngerti caranya gimana itu, yang bow.
The biggest weaknesses going into that final game. And
Coba buka
G2,
Steam
they
ya.
made me sweat a whole lot. They made T1 sweat. And I imagine PSG is going to be sweating going into this one as well.
And both teams fighting for their
Mana Steam dah kalau buka oh.
here at MSI as well, with Fnatic getting knocked out by TL yesterday.
Kalau suara kipas sorry ya. Sorry ya. Kalau di ada suara kipas. Masih di tangga ada poster. Yang kanan ya. Kemarin sih tapi PT ketutup. Masalahnya. Tuh, update lagi nih. Gak doang. Oke bang, escape ini deh. Top eta, Jack take above they love you. Kayak mana mungkin nggak ngerti deh. Yang kiri nggak kebuka. Makanya kemarin bingung kenapa nggak kebuka. Yang Nemesis di ini kan, yang Nemesis itu di Juke kan.
From what we saw against T1, taking away some of the power picks that G2 demonstrated against Faker and the rest of T1.
Sudah ngopi kalian? Ben Rek'Sai. Takut dipakai sama si ininya, si Broken Blade. 3 ADC di ban, Sena, AC, Lucian, dan paling AC Senanya tuh AC-nya support. Drum terbuka. Nah itu gua nggak ngerti dari mana masuknya. Kalista prospek bikinnya assassin biasanya. Tapi nggak tahu ya metanya G2 kemungkinan nggak itu. Nah iya kemarin aku nyoba gitu kak, tapi nggak bisa. Varus, aduh pusing banget gue ngeliat ADC isinya Varus Kalista. Zeri ADC yang baru gitu, bye instant engage.
Even the game where Pace had like a ridiculous KDA who didn't feel like he was the one taking over the game was much more about the setup on the rest of the Rift. As I love Jarvan, and I loved Jarvan Poppy as a combo, particularly into an immobile AD carry. Ton of power right from the get-go.
The beauty of this Poppy is they can keep it as a flex as well.
Mungkin deh bug fix kayak sekarang, iya ya. Bug fix kali udah bug fix ya. Ntar aku ngajak Raden nama Arab deh buat inian.
You have to imagine that that's going to be shifted away from now. Maple, we're now confident he is on the Azir, on the Talia. He's going to lock that one in Talia by Varus. When you would look at this draft from PSG, this is as better as you can get.
Ini kemungkinan support Poppy, jungler Jarvan. Top lane-nya belum kelihatan. Jadi kemungkinan nih kayaknya nggak main lane swap deh G2 deh. Oi, Rap. Nobar. Bentar, masih pakai speaker gua. Dah, halo tes, suara gua ada gak?
Ada. Gede banget suara lu.
Emang iya?
Apa gua kecilin nih?
Suara gua di Discord, di stream, gua lagi streaming by the way ya.
Oh ya.
Ntar gua ngurangin busnya deh. Nah, udah harusnya sudah aman. Udah ya, mendingan ya.
We've seen how
Mendingan
effective
sih.
it can be in the hands of certain players at this
Cuma
tournament.
ngurangin
I
gainnya.
feel like PSG should consider respecting
Nah, kita
those
lihat
G2 take the
apa yang
Rumble
akan
on board. We know
di-pick
that Aja, very proficient Rumble player. Even in the lane
Rumble
swaps,
band
it
biar
was
nggak ada
he
Rumble
who
support
found
karena supportnya belum
advantages
ketahuan.
still
Ini
and a way to
support
impact
sama
the
top
map, even though
lanernya
he was
PSG belum
aspect.
kelihatan.
Support Rumble's still a
Top
possibility
laner
as well,
sama mid
although I
lane-nya
do prefer
si
Woody
G2
on
belum
engage.
kelihatan.
I
Oi
think that is
sahabat,
where
oi
a
ini
lot
ya
of
sahabat.
PSG's impetus comes in the mid
Ya
game.
mari
You already
guys.
have the VAR, you have the point and click CC from
Berarti kalau lu sahabat gue
season
betul
to
sahabat
season.
Syahad dan
Virtually decide to shove.
anjay
So maybe
maaf.
you don't
Iya
need
maaf.
as much
Iya maaf.
CC hit for
Iya maaf.
PSG. They'll get rid of the
Lu ngapa sih,
block,
Bar?
which opens up G2
Nggak
as
apa-apa.
Betty said to that Aurelion Soul, which pairs up very nicely
Bentley
with the
blank, kenapa Ben LB?
One of the things PSG could
Mid
look
laner belum
towards
ketahuan
is
nih
the
dari
Renata,
G2.
a pick that we have already seen Woody play, and I think Renata into these type of short range compositions could get a ton of value. Obvious downside is that you picking there you go.
Renata
G2
Glass
drawing
karena emang
the
supportnya
same
belum kelihatan.
conclusion because can pick up a
Nautilus.
blind top laner
Nautilus
here if
harus
they want to,
instant
and then
TC,
save that
instant
counter pick.
engage
Of course,
dari
support
Vi.
R5. Nautilus,
Diikutin
though,
sama
it's
ultinya
exactly what you were
Nautilus.
saying earlier, Medic. It provides
Dicongkel
additional
Talia
knockdown.
meninggal.
Double point and click
Di
is
skill
always gonna
1
be
sama
very
si
strong
Parus
champions
ya.
like the Kalista,
Bapak
and
Parus.
Nautilus just always feels like a very consistent support pick.
Champion we've seen consistently banned. PSG are just getting power picks across the boards. I feel like PSG should be very happy with the direction they're going. They're taking their time, thinking about what they want to do moving into their final pick. Aja going to be getting that counter. How will he round things out as G2 will cement whether this Poppy is likely to go
Tinggal
top
apa nih,
or
mid
if it's
sama
staying in support.
Yeah,
Ini
if
sama
I'm
top
PSG, I'm
laner.
probably a little bit worried about a Braum
Tapi
here.
bisa jadi
Braum
di
good into Nautilus in the
Jarvannya,
lane,
Jarvan
good
top
against
lane
the
sih.
Vi as well, because as she jumped onto the back line, the
Masih
Braum
flex
just
pick ini.
dashes in front and puts up the Unbreakable, making it a lot harder
Oh,
for the
Zek top
follow-up
ini.
to come from the rest of the team.
Zek
Instead,
top
the Poppy
kemungkinan
is
bakal
going
main
to
lane swap
support
sih kalau
Zek
Zek
in
top
the top lane
biasanya.
for Broken
Gitu
Blade.
main
He
lane
had
swap
a
gak tau
couple of
rap.
exceptional performances on it
Apa?
Kata lu lane
against
swap gak
T1.
mereka?
So just giving a bit of comfort
Lane
to
swap apaan
BB in
tuh?
the top lane, who, in my
Ya
opinion,
belum tahu lu
has
ya,
been the
meta
best
baru
performer for G2 so far at MSI.
LL.
One of the strongest
Lane swap.
performances
Jadi
thus
ntar
far.
bot lanernya tuker sama top lane. Tuker-tukeran setiap satu wave.
We've seen
Oh.
Kenapa lu ngeliat jauh segini? Karena gue mau nonton ini sambil live aja, nggak apa-apa. Jadi biasanya tuh yang di bawah tuh hero-hero yang bisa sustain. Zack, Kesante,
Oh,
Ornn,
udah tuker-tukeran gitu.
Ornn hanya bertanya. Ya karena sore juga kan Hanif ntar konten up sore, kalau nggak sore malam. Kesante PSG. Tapi dilihat dari capability buat ngancurin tower, sebenarnya PSG lebih kuat sih kalau dipakai lane swap.
Broken Blade been the best performing member on the Zac, I think by a pretty large
Jadi top sama
margin.
supportnya doang apa support sama
Top sama ADC-nya. Jadi tuh kan gini, tower atas itu kan lebih lembek daripada tower bawah. Jadi buat nyari plating. Selamat hari Minggu, selamat hari Minggu juga
As you point out, I also feel like particularly with these Kalista
pada
Tristana
semuanya
comps, generally you're going to be looking
penonton.
for these early to mid game
Nia, Kak Andro,
shoves for the
Aki.
push, meaning that if you get into mid game with a decent lead, the
Let's
point
get in.
which
Let's get in
Kasante is
and
gonna
see
take
which
over
one
is
is
gonna
going
be
to
a
do
lot
the lane swap or
slower.
are they
I
not
do
going
think
to
that
do one.
eventually, as you should be able to reach a point where it is going to be a brick
Tapi
wall,
kemarin udah di
but
break
he
sih.
doesn't have
Intinya
as
tuh
much
kalau
space
lane
due
swap
to the
lu harus
Poppy being in the game as well.
nge-formanin level 3 si top lanernya. Harus ngedive tower, harus mati pokoknya. Kalau top laner nggak mati udah bebas aja tuh lane swap, duitnya banyak banget ADC-nya. Nah ini tinggal lihat nih Kalistanya main assassin apa enggak. Karena dari kemarin tuh gue liat Kalista sama Varus jadi assassin anjir. Jadi dia nge-stack si skill 3-nya gitu ke minion. 3 minion misalkan. Terus skill 1 minionnya sembari relasi ke hero itu sakit banget anjing. Kalau lu lihat si Gumayusi setiap main kayak gitu deh. Pukul-pukul minion, skill 1 dari jauh trot ya, sakit banget anjing.
Oh yang assassin itu, bukan?
Iya. First item langsung yang apa sih nama itu? Yang size namanya gue lupa, item baru.
Backs against the wall. Elimination for both PSG and G2. We jump into game 1.
Jarvan naikin skill 3 dulu buat nambah attack speed sih. Oke, kayaknya nggak lane swap nih. Nggak lane swap ini. Susah soalnya Kesante.
Of expectations on their shoulders going into that tournament, and
Kesante.
even more,
Zack
I would say, going
Zack
into
nggak
this
bisa
one
survive
for them,
harusnya
especially
ngelawan
after their
Vital
almost
ya,
victory
gitu-gitu.
against T1.
I mean, after people saw the G2, I mean, people saw the
Tapi
PSG
Mbappe mana,
series
Mbappe?
and they were like,
Mbappe.
wow, PSG is scary.
Di pro player kenapa jarang ada yang pick ini ya? Bawa rune
Apaan?
tower itu.
And now you've got these two teams that exceeded
Gak
expectations
tahu
in
gua.
many
Karena
ways.
mungkin lebih banyak
And for one
mentingin
of their
team fight
runs
kali.
to be cut
Iya
short
kali
is
ya.
very bittersweet,
Maksudnya kan lumayan kan.
given how they have
Apalagi
performed
kalau lu
at
pakai meta ini,
MSI.
meta lane swap najis.
MSI for you, though.
it
Cuma
is.
mungkin jangka panjangnya nggak enak kali.
Iya, jangka panjangnya nggak enak.
Get knocked out relatively early.
I'm just happy we have double A-Lane.
Yeah.
So it's not just the one series, always leaves us with a bit of a sour taste. It doesn't look like we're going to be getting any lane swaps. Main thing of note for me, Hansama, I don't think too surprisingly, you already pointed out Medic. Generally, the...
Ini selama Hansama nggak nge-troll kayak waktu lawan T1 sih harusnya menang.
But Betty also going for the unhit Varus, which given
Team fight-nya
that we were kind of wondering
kuatan
to what
gitu,
extent
tapi
we're going to be able to deal with the tanks on the opposite
buat nyulik
side.
enak banget anjing.
I think
PSG
an
ada
interesting
Vi,
focus
ada
on Varus
Nautilus,
kind of changes in what he
Talia.
does, particularly in mid-game fights on 1 and 2 spikes.
Iya,
There's
enak
a
banget
lot more
nyulik sih.
power in the extended
Buat misahin
trades, but
misahin
it's the
musuh tuh
amount of
gampang
burst
banget
that
anjing
G2
ini.
have available and the
Dari PSG
guaranteed lockdown
lagi
of
war
Jarvan.
dipindah-pindahin,
We'll see
dipisah-pisahin
how
gampang.
Betty's able to play it, 'cause he was, I think,
Di
one of
ulti
the big
Talia
standouts
ada,
in the series
di ulti
against
Kesante
BLG.
diculik dua kabur ada.
Excited to see Betty return to the Rift.
Oh.
Caps looking to get
Tuh. Caps level 2 pasti
nice
gitu tuh
trade
anjing.
down in the mid lane. Level 2 secured for Mickey and Hans. Nicely positioned.
Parah banget
there
support
for
goblok
Betty,
kagak
not
di.
getting too close to any walls.
Kok dia
They remember what happened
tadi
to
kayaknya
the T1 bot lane.
dia pick
Gonna
ini
show
dulu
that
deh.
respect towards Mickey, who,
Poppy
I mean,
dulu
we think
kenapa
back
dia
to
pick
that series,
Nautilus ya?
Poppy was definitely his best
Gak bisa
champion
ngehook,
in the
anjir.
series by far. Bit
Not
of
many
pressure.
Halo plays this game, though, Betty.
Nautilus gak bisa ngehook, cok, di skill 2 pasti.
I think he's expecting more of a slightly less aggressive bot lane 2 versus 2. We keep our eyes on the junglers as well, both doing a clear towards
Skill
bot
3-nya
side.
Varus tuh
Getting
ngapa
that
sih
early
bikin
information
Grievous Wounds ya?
for
Ngasih
PSG.
Grievous Wounds ya?
But also, notice the early
Yeah.
vision invested from PSG
Gua
in
kadang
terms of
ngancurin
their
armor.
entrances to the bot side. They were
Kayak
concerned about
Rel.
G2 leveraging their early strength, and we all know
Atau
about that
Teke
creative
Rel.
jarving pathing, right? Where you can do red, EQ over the wall, maybe even invade on the enemy.
Kalah ya,
PSG were
nge-trade
concerned about
Tristana
that,
lawan
and so they've tried
ini.
to
Gue kira bakal
mitigate
menang
what
ini loh.
pressure they can. But right now, it's Caps are pushing mids.
Please, please.
Yike,
Oh,
let's see
dapat.
what he can do with this pressure that he has.
Udah mau ngambil blue buff nih, mau di fight.
Towards this blue.
Aku akan
Tinder
kesini.
went Wolves into
Aku
Gromp. Now
punya
starting
ini.
the blue has popped the Vault Breaker as well. Yike stepping in here, does have the smite, so
Gak
does
boleh
Ginger.
menang.
And you can see
Harusnya
coming from G2
menang
first to react with that push.
Jinji ya.
Ginger should
Tapi
just
gak
have
punya
to
temen,
step
jadi
away from this Caps
menang
as well
si
with
Jai.
push in the mid lane. G2 will steal away this blue.
Exemplary League of Legends, Prio in mid, Prio in bot. And a solid matchup in
Double
the 1v1
Prio
as well.
bawah
Yike
Parah
sama
jungle-nya, botnya nggak ke atas, parah nggak bantu. Parah.
Enggak,
Jungle-nya.
itu udah kena Prio soalnya Rap.
Pings right
WF
now for both
WF
teams.
si
PSG realize they don't have control of the bot
G2
side, but Broken
mid,
Blade
mid
with his
sama
push
bawahnya
on top
WF maju.
means that
Jadi kalau
Yike was
misalkan
thinking about an invade immediately,
bantuin
gets
Hilang
pertama
ya?
WF hilang,
Spotted.
kedua
And so he's decided,
kedua
you know
juga
what,
nggak
I'm
akan
not
impact
actually gonna
apa-apa.
try and contest that top grab.
Jadi
I
dia
think
buang-buang
Yike
waktu.
realized it was a little greedy.
Mendingan
He was
ngasih
pushing
buff
a
yang
little
cuma
bit farther
30
than he
duit,
should have,
berapa sih?
and instead
90
will
ya?
just be happy with the
45
bot
sekitar
I
situ
think
lah
there was
pokoknya.
a window there for
Daripada lu
Juggernaut, at
kehilangan
least
satu
for
wave,
some
apalagi
of them.
ADC.
If you forgo the crap and just run, because Broken Blade didn't get the question just yet as Betty.
Nice try. Si Mickey mau nyobain hal yang sama ke Kuma Yusi kemarin anjing. Nge-flash terus di skill 3 ke tembok.
Means nice play there from Betty. A
Tuh.
little unlucky from Mickey.
Lihat ya kenapa dia habis ngelasit kamu kalau lagi Rap.
Betty, if he had, Yike might
Dia
flash
nyamain
EQ'd
minion.
to try and find
Jadi
a kill
slow,
for
jadi
G2.
ke freeze.
Small goal lead in favor of G2 for now. Nothing
Tadi
to
kan
write home
menang
about,
merah
though.
tuh. Kalau menang merah dia slow
Been able to
push
get
ke
his
arah
back
si
off and
G2-nya.
make his way towards his top camps. Those
Tuh wave
respawns
management kayak
are
gitu tuh
gonna
gue
come
kalau
through.
nonton ngerti Rap,
Yike
tapi
could
kalau
do
main
the
pusing
same
anjing.
thing now.
Sumpah.
Think about early grubs, something that G2 have put a high
Nih kayak gini
priority
ini kan
on.
Yeah.
mininya sama nih.
PSG will try to
Slow push
contest
tapi
that
sih,
ball
slow
and
push
stay
ke
prioritize
G2-nya.
early dragons.
Lu ya kalau main tuh pusing banget anjir ngatur wave management, tapi kalau misalkan nonton ngerti gue ini kenapa ada nggak ngelasit, kenapa dia lasit.
Susah, in practice susah.
Karena kalau nonton tuh lu ngeliat semuanya kan. Lu
Iya.
cuma nonton doang gitu, lu bisa mikir sambil nonton, tapi kalau dia kan mikir, gerakin, ngeratiin musuh gitu.
And obviously with the mites or the grubs is
Nah,
always going
mininya
to
udah
feel
slow
a
push
little
nih,
bit
nggak
less
ke-freeze.
impactful than
Kemungkinan
getting a
di-
herald,
nggak
getting a
ditahan,
dragon.
dikira abis.
But we have actually seen, I think, after the buffs that
Oh,
came
ditahan
through
anjing,
to
Rob.
the grubs that they do feel
Biar
a little bit
minion
more
dalam.
impactful, and that teams are more happy to contest them as
Pakai tuh si Zaknya pakai itu.
Oke tuh. Baru diomongin.
Iya.
Hey!
Halo.
Selamat
Selamat kembali.
Yeah.
Again, was
Nggak
keeping an
kena.
eye on
Kalau
the
kena sakit
back
dari
of the
tuh.
map. G2 dropping a ping towards the
Dar.
Gromp. Mickey, I don't think he's going to be able to find anything, but they're cautious about Junja hovering
Caps
around the
udah
bot
level
side.
6.
It makes sense for Junja to be on this side of the map right now. The
Bisa-bisa
bot
nggak
lane was
majuin
getting frozen on by Betty and Woody, so they were forced to
si
stick around. They need to push
berusaha
this
buat
wave
solo
out,
kill kalau
and
nggak
that
bisa.
means that they're at risk of getting ganked. Junja covering is extremely important. Very unlikely for them to threaten a dive.
Kamu lebih
While
tepat.
Maple
Yoi.
does have level 6, I think that he doesn't quite have the mana, needs to get a reset off. Still has the TP to get back in, but this arrival in the bot lane opens up the grubs on the top side.
Yeah, you see the immediate pings from G2. Yike runs up there, will be able to secure all three of these grubs. Broken Blaze TP back into the lane alongside Azure, so it's going to be an exchange of grubs for the Drake. G2's bottom lane having to respect the fact that Junja was in the area.
There's also the fact that Broken Blade just come off a fresh base. RG's not looking for a back right now, and Maple was behind on the play. Caps had already gotten the priority in mid, so only real option there is to cross map.
Kenapa dipindahin? Karena mindahin monitor.
Still,
Mereka sekarang webcam kan di atas, tadinya tuh di depan. Karena pakai tempat sampah kan. Biar tinggi. Terus ya udahlah, monitor turunin.
I think he might get it off the Scuttle Crab. Not quite. Oh, there we are. Pings over to level 6, so there's the risk of jumping onto Maple in the mid lane. He was working his way down towards the bottom side. Weaver's Wall, always a threat.
Tahun kapan?
Maple,
Itu SD.
short of
Foto
route back
SD.
into this
Pas
lane.
SD.
Junja is waiting in the wings. Yike going forward.
Mati
Side big
gitu.
shell flash by Maple.
Caps nggak bisa skill 2, kalau skill 2 mati gara-gara ini. Oh udah nggak ada juga, udah maju berarti dia.
Still a good
Pakai
trade.
buat maju.
Caps looks a little bit there, and if Junja has 6, maybe there's a punish opportunity, but that's not the case. No ultimate available.
Ya
for him.
hilang cannon,
It's just
Caps
going to be the
goblok,
ultra flash trade.
goblok.
And Caps did miss the cannon there. So who's really winning is the
Dia
question.
menjahili
Flash for
That's
cannon.
Recall reward.
The question is if you punish the
Bisa
flash, it
di-engage.
always is, right? If Maple's able just to stay safe for the next
Bisa
5
di-engage
minutes
parah,
and
anjing.
just continue
I
farming
know.
up, then the flash not punished. Flash hook though going in.
Diam.
Seismic shot back onto Mickey as
Mati.
he was waiting in the bush, but he was pounced on
Ulti
by
lah.
PSG.
Jinja.
The collapse continues.
Oh, level 5 dia.
Maple gets the kill. Who's really winning, Betty? I think it's PSG.
Big thing there
Coba
was that
Talia tuh
G2
di mid
was
lagi gara-gara
able to
itu
walk
anjing,
in
gara-gara
that
skill
rush.
satunya.
They weren't aware
Di
of
itu
it,
emang.
and as a result,
Skill satunya kan jadi
PSG get
AoE.
the first blood.
Nice collapse.
Dulu kan single
Good
target.
lockdown coming out
Single
from
target,
PSG
iya.
as They secure themselves first blood. Not going to do a huge amount in terms of the goal difference, but a small
Makanya sering
advantage gained
kadang-kadang
for
lebih
Maple. It's gonna
dipilih
buy us
main di
boots on-
jungle daripada main di itu atau nggak di top lane, Talia top lane.
That's a great
Look, Betty,
word
it's,
fumble in
it's
the
Gue juga gak ngerti sih bisa batu nabrak begitu tapi cuma single target tuh aneh emang dari awal
My
juga.
apologies, my
keep
apologies.
abreast of the situation in certain moments.
Fine nonjok kena supersonic. Damage. Lah ini batu anjing kena mata sakit
We
kan.
have to keep our eyes on moving forward. Relatively slow early game as both sides not really looking for that early action, but credit to PSG finding that early kill. Set them up nicely in particular. Let's see if Maple can use that small advantage to start
Taiwet
moving
first
around.
item langsung Spirit Fishes ini, Spirit Fishes apa namanya, kawal santainya.
Right, like we have the tools, we have
Ya ada Nia ya, kabur deh. Lah, udah gak ngasih satu
We have good
cannon
zone
ya.
control with either the Talia or the Poppy. There's plenty of team fighting power to go around, which in practice, I know from experience, does not necessarily lead to the most.
Tapi kalau diperhatiin ternyata tuh nge-freeze lane deket tower tuh gak selalu bagus. Lah, kocak banget Broken Blade anjing. Oh, beli ini dia. Apa namanya, Rap? Yang ngebakar
A massive misplay
pecahannya
from
Spirit
Broken
Fishes,
Blade.
Spirit
Tries
Fishes,
to proxy
pecahannya
but
Sunfire
PSG
Aegis.
just manages it perfectly, uses all the CC
Bami
at
Cinder.
his disposal to
Oh,
keep
yeah.
Broken Blade
Dia
underneath
beli
the
Bami
tower.
Cinder jadi nggak
Gets
damage
another
pas di
kill
dalam
for
tower
PSG.
kena aggro dia.
Really big win there. The Cassante was one of the win conditions we talked about. If the Zac starts falling behind and his base damages, his level
Enggak deh,
not as
ini
high as they could be,
Kalista tech speed anjing.
Ashi can just itemize.
Rune itu soalnya. The fuck? Rune lethal
It was a bit
tempo.
crazy from Caps. Like, well,
I don't want to call it desperation yet because they're only
I mean,
2-0
Halo, Bang
down,
Arab,
but it was
tuh,
a
kata
little bit
I mean, I
hands
would,
over
I would not call
Hello.
it desperation. I think that the play was that Yike was making his way into mid, and so
Si
Caps
Caps
thought,
ngapa
I
dah?
can ulti him back into lane
Nge-solo kill,
to set up for a
kemarin tuh
combo
dia
kill,
nge-solo
but he
kill
doesn't
itu ya,
have flash.
nge-solo
Look
kill
back at this
Faker.
play.
Abis itu
I
kena
noticed that
26
Raja
apa?
gonna get the knockback.
KDA-nya.
Then he brings him back underneath the tower.
Faker.
Again. That's a third tower shot. Then
Jadi
he
si Faker
kicks
tuh kena
underneath
solo
the
kill
tower
sama si
with
Caps
the
kan.
ultimate. Perfect
Di early
chain
game.
CC from Aja
Tapi
to
pas
secure
dibawa ke
a
late
solo
game,
kill.
si Caps malah agak
Oh.
nge-kill lagi, malah jadi matiin 6 malah
Tries to
nge-feed.
proxy the wave.
Tolol banget anjing.
Broken Blade could have just played it a little bit slower. Maybe you lose a minion or two, but you still get the proxy and you don't run the risk of walking in there Q3.
Anjing
Kalah.
jatuh.
And just really smart to all out away from the wall as well, because often as Cassante you want to pull people through that wall, but it meant that Broken Blade couldn't flash out of tower range and kept him under there for that extra turret shot.
I'll also say the Hollow Radiance pickup is just so massive in the early matchup. when you're playing against double AD carry, obviously he's going to start itemizing a lot more towards armor. But we'll see how things progress. That matchup's going to get a lot harder as now Ginger on the squad looking to contest.
Right, gets the 4th grab for G2, and I think that's all
Empat
G2
grab
wanted
cukup
really.
lah.
Betty's on his way as well.
Betty is on his way across, and with Hansama not there, G2 wisely back away. If they take this fight, there'll be a numbers disadvantage. They realize that, so they get their 4th grub, and then they get the hell out of there.
Talked about it a little bit earlier as well. Want to try and deny these 6 grubs, but with Betty also roaming up, is going to be
PCS tuh apa
decent
ya?
amount of this
PSG
wave
itu apa
lost,
ya?
and Hansama picking up a plate. So
PSG Sport.
PSG, I think you're going to be happy about the fact that you denied that
Langsung
extra
Holo
pushing
Radiance
power, but
si
we are
kesannya
starting to see that again. G2 now
ngejar
even
clearing,
despite the
clearing
kills,
wave. Biar cepet.
relatively closer in terms of gold. I think though
Kenapa
that
Zeknya
until
per
we're
second
actually
fire
going
ya?
to see an actual team fight, actual 4v4
Kayaknya
5v5,
clearingnya
we're gonna
Zek
have a
udah
really good
bagus.
idea of how this game is going to go, because this
Apa
game to
nyari
me
ini ya, nyari
specifically is
armornya
just
sama
gonna
darah?
come down to who has better execution, who's able to keep their backline safe, who has the right call with engaging, because there are a lot of targets that I think are kind of bait. Popping
Iya,
is a
iya,
big
bisa
one,
orang ya, enak ya.
but even things
Iya,
like
nge-clear-nya cepet.
Santai, I feel like at this point we should all know, but we've still seen teams try.
That we have.
Thunder
I wonder
Sky
if we see a
kagak
fight
pakai
around this
sepatu
next
tuh.
break. G2
Jarvannya
wants to
bodo
stop
amat.
PSG
Apa lu
from
gua
stacking
bayar
up,
cash
but
anjing
Maple
beli
will
item.
push him mid. Caps on a reset, has a noon quiver. Ginger's going to start up the dragon. TP's available for both the top laners. Ginger
Midnya punya Prio langsung dateng. Bawahnya punya Prio langsung dateng lihat tuh.
to step across. G2 definitely second to this. As Betty says, I think it's too late as well. Woody
Oi,
misses
nggak
the
kena.
hook. Yike goes in, can't land the smite, secured.
Woi, ultinya nggak kena Parus. Fuck. Ngapa sih PSG aneh banget?
Steadfast presence, and G2 will get out.
Sepi siang-siang pada bobo.
ULCK cast.
I love it.
I think movement speed is a very
Ada
powerful
bobo siang.
thing. Don't get me wrong.
Pada
But
boci
PSG playing this other game very
namanya
well.
boti.
Very calm, very collected. They're not
Enak banget ya,
falling prey to any
clearingnya.
of the early traps that G2
Iya
have been
makanya
trying
sekarang
to
enak.
set
Terus
up.
dia
They've
kalau
been
skill 1 yang nggak cukup
respectful.
tuh nggak pakai skill 3.
They've been rewarded for it.
Langsung
Mickey
clear.
now maybe in some danger.
Cuman emang bukannya nge-burst gitu loh.
Space call will pull him out.
Tai bet.
Yike on his way.
Masuk lagi lah. Ya, nakut.
Maaf,
Maaf.
Sorry. Just the Weavers
Iya,
were
maaf.
used in exchange for the Fates call.
Marah-marah mulu Akbar.
Not too crazy of a trade
Iya,
there,
Pak.
one way or another. Yike.
Jajan gue, pengen makan.
Locked up for a second flash as the Vault
Flash
Breaker
lagi
needed to.
Jarvan.
That
Itu skin
is
apa ya?
shot
Skin
would have
glorious kah?
followed.
Bukan, nggak ada glorious
This
kan?
time,
Nggak tidur lagi, nggak?
down
Nggak
that
nonton.
mid lane.
Jarvan
Mau
itu
nonton.
skill
Out of it,
lubu
with only 45
kasih
seconds
ini
remaining
tahu.
before those plates
Oh,
fall. I don't think we'll
Chroma
see
ya?
more falling.
Iya.
Skin lubu Chroma ya? Streamer drafting tiap hari, jangan dong. Ini gue udah nggak pernah nyoba. Wingstop punya ini baru nih, menu baru nih.
Saya berhenti.
Sayap direct. Enggak, bukan. Apa namanya ini? Tahu namanya cheesy pop. Ya maaf. Beli ramen jodoh aku. Nggak jadi deh, mahal di Grab anjing. Ini makan sono.
PSG was so good around those team fights in the PCS.
Yeah.
It's what really won them the
Ayam
region.
gebok.
So if G2 are forced
Ayam
into,
gebok.
outnumbered fights where they're
Bang,
stepping
kamu
into fog,
gay ya?
PSG
Iya,
have
aku
every
gay.
tool in their toolkit to
GUY.
punish them with this composition.
Swapping up the lanes now for both sides.
Lah nge-live ini. Lah bukan ini Premier lu gimana Jak?
As likely to be the big point of contention. Hansama.
Yang enak apa ya?
Same for Betty. Those first core items.
Pastaria Legit Group nih temennya Hungry bukan sih?
As quickly as he can.
Apa beda?
Going for that gonna delay it a little bit.
Kagak di-delay anjing, Caps gak apa dah. Dia takut anjir. Kan jadi enak nggak masuk lagi weh. Ini Caps mainnya kagak danta, cok. The hell man? Pastaria nggak hungry. Oh iya, gabut parah. Bukan ini gue nonton ini, jadi sekalian aja. Gue pengen nonton ini, nonton PSG. Ini MSI. Oh beda ya, Legit Group beda lagi ya. Moro Burger. Buset. Selamat anjing Caps. Dibalikin. Wih. Ora beda dua sisi. Disuruh pulang, mati. Itu Kalista. Kalistanya cuma di doang anjing. Di all-in sama si Junji langsung mati. Harusnya sakit. 3 lawan 3. Anjing! Baru gua katain teh langsung nge-montage gitu anjing. Baru teh gua kata-katain anjay. Ayo kemana kamu ayo. Di skill 2 sama Caps nih. Wih!
Junja.
And PSG
Anjing.
the objective.
Baru gua kata-katain tiba-tiba triple kill anjing.
G2 was so ready for it. Knew who was coming. And the response is immaculate. It starts with
GG anjir Caps cok. Mini faker baby faker emang beda level.
Caps playing that very well, very patiently. I'm wondering at what point
Di sini aneh banget sih dia anjir.
He waits for the knockback.
Untung selamat.
Now he's able to create space, buys enough time for the TP to
Gua
come in. But look at Mickey
balikin.
on the right-hand side of his screen.
Set,
Locks
Miki,
up Junja,
dar,
makes
ting,
the fight
ting,
on two
ting,
fronts
ting.
to the
Oh,
top
aku
side.
mau ikut
G2 is
tahan
now
sama.
winning with
Aku
their
punya
chain
ini.
CC and the damage
Aku
that they
punya
have.
ini. Ah,
Betty
di ulti,
and Junja
cek,
are doing
ting,
serious
ting,
work.
ninggal.
For Mickey to try and get Betty out of the fight, but Junja has the damage. Now
Si,
they think 3
kenapa
versus
sih
4,
headset
we can
gua?
actually turn this around, and Betty
Kalistanya kagak
proving exactly
main.
again what he did against BLG. His
Di
positioning
combo
and his damage
Vi
output
cuma
was
item Thunder
fantastic,
Sky
but the
mati.
knockup still comes through from Yike.
Dar,
The damage from
anjir,
Caps
cakep
is too
banget
much.
anjing ultinya.
And G2 they end up
Emang
getting
kudu
an
gitu jauh jadi
ace
manjur.
as PSG still find 3.
And it's Caps that knocks it down, but it's Broken Blade and Yike. The amount of bouncy castling that was happening to all the members of PSG. Continuous flag and
Mujigaya
drags.
nggak enak.
Broken
Ogah
Blade
gua beli
with the
Mujigaya lagi nih.
thresholder there towards the start of the
Bakmi
fight.
gawa apa?
Set it all up.
Gawa-gawa.
Mickey stepping forward, puts the set plus person down.
Mati kah?
All the possibility.
Ya elah Mickey Mouse.
Opportunity to move.
Minggu juga jalan kemana gitu. Males ah.
Massive with the
Mending di
Dragons
rumah.
running in 15 seconds. PSG put themselves in a
Yeah.
great spot.
Di ulti biar free tower.
Trying to join up. Caps in the top lane does
Tapi
have
nggak
some
dinaikin
movement,
biasanya nih.
pushing out bot.
Tabrak
Reveals
kayak
charging.
cadar.
Falling,
Wang.
PSG take it. The Drake next on the menu for them would be their third of the game.
Free tower di bawah sama atas nggak worth it anjing. Tukernya sama 2 tower.
PSG still gonna go for this.
Harus naga ini. Kalau dapat naga baru worth it buat si
They know
PSG.
he's in the top lane. Now he goes out of vision. Can
Ayam
TP, you
geprek,
can see
iya ayam
Azure
geprek ya.
trying to
Tapi
chase
ayam
him out,
geprek
making sure he
langganan
can't
gua
TP away, which means that PSG
gak ini. Bakso normal. Apa lu jual bakso abnormal anjing?
TP is almost up for Ajido, so PSG can play it slow.
Bakso mercon jumbo anjing mau lihat gak?
PSGs, they've already used their tempo to take that mid tower. They've
Bakso.
invested a lot.
Aduh,
Remember
keren,
that
Cok.
Maple also used
Ya
his
pokoknya
ultimate to
bakso
try and catch
mercon
Hansama
jumbo.
off.
Ah anjing namanya ada gak sih?
Jumbo
ada ahnya belakangnya the fuck. Dua atau bakmi dan 2 topping. Duh, war jangka panjangnya menang kan si Jitu. Ini letal temponya hidup. Mati. Dang, ting, hilang semua. Capsnya hilang. Oh enggak, selamat masih ada flash. Dikejar. Aku lari. Aku punya ini. Woi, Jux. Woi, gila, cok. Mini baby packer ya. Masih dapat ngebunuh si Talia. Burem. Iya. Nggak bisa, nggak ada autonya. Ini miskin webcam murah. Pokmi, bakmi ayam jamur. Wih, cakep nih ayam jamur nih. Paket hemat berdua 60.000. Ih, murah nih. Mie kuning ayam cincang.
Join the top half of the fight, wasn't actually able to, and at this point, PSG have a numbers advantage, able to close it out and set up for that soul point that we were talking about earlier.
Caps is able to get
Kenapa
the kill
sebar?
back
Gue
in a
TW.
very
Tai.
late hit. Nice
Berdua
play from
sama.
him, realizing there's not a lot he can do.
Ayam kremes berdua sama,
Auto-attack
nggak tahu.
combined with the
Kadang gue beli
ultimate
paket
to get a
2 buat
trade
gue
on
makan
Maple,
sendiri.
but still, the gold largely remains even, but you're getting to see the impact that Betty can have in these fights. Aja caught off on a side lane.
PSG might set up around the Baron for this. Azure will fall. Broken Blade does still have the TP, as does Cap. So PSG realize all you can
Hermado
get really is
shawarma
vision
kali ya?
because you know you're
Makan
overloading this side of the
shawarma.
map. They're trying to delay Azure here, so that they have better tempo
Nggak jadi,
on the
gocap
resets.
satu
If they can
ininya.
delay him for long enough,
Bakso pakmu.
maybe they can set
Nggak
up
mau ah.
around the Baron themselves.
pakmu
Caps
mah
will take
tidak
him in the
pakmu.
end. Might actually just be a tier 2 push in the bot lane, but with the minion wave cleared out, it's a bit
Marugame.
harder for G2 to do that. That's the first TP.
Malak
That's the second.
bocil.
G2 are going for Baron.
You highlighted it perfectly, Medic. They wanted to delay the respawn of Aja as
Cheese
much as humanly
kunafa apa
possible.
ini anjing?
Now the double TP
Pastel
invested, they're going to push
Risol
the mid wave
keju.
in, and they're going to force PSG
Bakmi
into a
kun,
4v5.
tapi 4,7.
Wall available. Chain of
Bakmi
corruption,
istimewa.
flashback
Ini apa pakai
defense.
babi kah?
He is
Oh ya,
having
babi
the
packing.
tournament of his life for
Bentukannya
this
kayak daging
PSG lineup
babi.
against BLG. He was so consistently the carry. We saw the team
Ya, ayam dan
damage
taekwondo.
in the last fight as well. Baron down to
Broko on foot.
6,000.
Apa ya Broko on
Junja
foot?
trying to get in, has the flash, has the smite. Keep his burning blocked. As he dives onto the backline, Junja's off towards the side. He
Hah,
flashes
ngeflash
in.
kecepatan.
The Baron down to 6,000.
Wow.
Junja gets it. G2 unable to secure the objective. How will they be able to win the fight? Can PSG continue to
G2-nya
advance? G2
jungle
are already
div,
got the
G2-nya
lead.
jungle div.
Take out Caps as well. And now it's all on Hans Summer to do everything he can.
G2-nya jungle div. Wait, dijuks, wait.
Wih,
Wih, lompatan keluarga Jack. Ya, di cancel kocak. Masih bisa diberantemin harusnya. Oh, nggak mau. Goblok Jarvannya. Enggak sih, bukan salah Jarvan itu, guys. Kalau udah kayak gitu, ketemu sama Bang A nggak ketemu. Desert gue kira risol keju. Ada fotonya, bro. Bentar. Ada nomor telepon gua anjing. Bentar dulu.
We need to keep our eyes on Mickey in the
Set.
replay because he's going to be the
Bang Al, Bang A.
factor that's supposed to
Goblok
try and
kelihatan
get
dong.
Junja out of the pit.
Ya itulah
We can
pokoknya.
see him channeling the
Ada sama Bang Al.
ultimate, only connects onto the Nautilus who still finds a way in. Junja then goes over the wall to avoid
Oh iya, gua ada nge-share sama ini si Syahdan.
the keeper's
Karena dia
verdict.
minta.
And then the smite comes through, an early smite from Yike is punished by Junja, and then immediately they turn their attention on the Caps. Good positioning from Betty as Mickey tries to do everything that he can to keep him out of the fight. Maple finds his way on.
Bang Al, ya ketemu Bang Al gua. Ayo Salmon, kamu mau ketemu mau Bang Al nggak? Denzet gabut Bang, mayan. Nggak gabut sih gua emang nonton. Soalnya kemarin G2 lawan T1 gua nggak nonton gara-gara di kantor anjir, nggak ada wifi. Nggak ada wifi yang bisa buka ini. Kalau di slow ya udah nggak apa-apa lah, mau depel lagi, udah kelihatan.
One upside here for G2 is that there's not a lot of Baron buffs left.
Tai lu,
Because
Den.
of the way the fight played out. I don't think Aji actually got it because he was still dead when the
Tai
Baron
lu, Den,
fell,
gua time out.
meaning that I'm pretty sure it's only Maple that is sitting on it right now. So you can't really rely on the side lane pressure the way that you normally can with the Baron,
detik.
but it's still going to allow you to get a great tempo back in here. Dragon is going to spawn in about a
Ntar
minute.
gua masih nggak tahu nih mau beli apa,
PSG
anjir.
should be the favorites to take that. G2
Tropical salad, anjing, gocap makan sayur, ogah gua.
Betty
Ini
needs
ayam
to be
bangka super.
eliminated early in the fight, and he doesn't have his flash.
I think so many of these fights have just been very disjointed from G2. We think back to the
Berat berak,
first
euy.
top lane fight where G2 was able to split the fight in
Baru
their
dikit sih
favor.
belatnya.
But
T1 kalah Bang, menang kemarin 3-2.
on PSG's terms, they were the ones that were able to
Eh,
avoid
T1
a lot
mana
of the
nih?
initial engage coming out from Yike. They
T1
were able to find a pit.
T1 Valorant apa T1
PSG have just been
LOL?
very
Kalau
patient
LOL
with their
menang,
approach
kalau
to the fight.
Valorant kalah
Now
3-0 sama
control
Genji
of the mid,
kemarin.
Cleansing out of this vision, they're setting themselves up nicely for the fourth dragon.
Caps spotted an award, BB2, seismic shove back. Caps might look to the backline. Maple, a key target as well alongside Betty. Caps jumps across the
Ini
wall.
selama Caps nggak goblok menang ini.
Knocks out Maple.
Tuh kan,
Now BB.
sakit banget anjir Capsnya.
Party bouncing in. Junja
No,
locked into the wall.
rata.
Betty. Weaver's wall back in. Separate.
Sama Caps rata.
Elastic change shot forward as Azure.
Apa kesantai, gak ada impact. Mati lu semua. Lompat tuh.
As Caps dives in, he wants to make it four. This tower has enough to keep Maple alive for a second.
Lanjut lagi gas, lompatan. Ya. Hear me out there. Meninggal. Anjing, kemarin lawan Faker agak begini dia mainnya rap.
They get the Baron.
Lawan Faker covid aja gimana ya?
Overstep in the enemy jungle. They seem split on the call. Maple wasn't there when the fight
Kemarin teh
started.
dia
They just
dia
demonstrated thus far.
ngefit
Finally
anjing.
got the team fight that they were looking for. They're able to
Udah jadi
execute
kesalahan,
it back to
Bat.
back. And when we get a look at the replay, that's exactly what they do. They don't do anything clever. They just hit the target.
Mana
in front
kagak
of
ada
them.
anjing.
Initiation
Apa
from Willy.
lawannya rap,
To
lawannya
throw
bukan
the blade
Faker.
into the Caps now has a lot less to be afraid
I feel
of.
like G2 should
Yeah.
go for the buff.
From the rest of the team behind the wall. And look at that, they just focus the buy, focus the
Ya
focus.
Allah,
Maple gets
254
knocked away
anjing.
by Mickey. Once
Ini game 5
again,
sih.
having a fantastic performance on the Poppy.
Oh yang Valorant kalah 3-0.
Completely untouched.
Siapa tuh yang
to allow
masuk?
for the chase down of PSG.
Raden.
Oh, Raden.
The use of the seismic shove, the unraveled earth.
Bar spoiler dikit. Apa yang dimakan pas collab?
Meant that G2 just had to
Yang jelas
quickly
dim sama
jump
kematian.
forward, jump forward and
Faker
jump
lol kan ya?
forward.
Iya.
Mickey knocking Maple out of the fight as well.
Dar.
As much as, you know, we talk about Jinx as a reset champion, Viego a reset champion, Tristan
Langsung udah dikirimin santet sama Caps anjing, tinggal nunggu meledak. Gila damage-nya 8.000 anjir. Dapat 2 kali lipat Apa 4 kali lipatnya si ADC-nya.
This Poppy game has been a bit more up and down, but that ultimate might be the difference maker, right? The fact that Maple isn't
Aduh,
actually
ini kaki gua kesemutan.
sitting
Banyak
at that
semut
point
kayaknya.
9-2,
Wow.
and so good as well as one of the members in the team is actually shredding tanks. And you saw the front
Gue
line
pengen
from
nyoba
G2
ini,
just
Cuk.
didn't take any damage
Jet
because
jet
the
chicken dah.
Leandris and
Kemungkinan
Crypt
satu ini sama
Blue,
gold
Talia
chick anjing.
wasn't there.
Really importantly for
Set foot.
PSG though, it
Tapi
is
takutnya
only
set
one
foot
Drake.
tapi kalau set foot enggak mau dah. Gua enggak mau, gua set foot.
To get onto Soul Point early. The Barons are
Ayam
probably
koplo
quite
4,6 kecil
all
banget.
their vision is set up around the Baron side. It's a roller coaster of
Dulu di Maden, di rumah Den.
emotions, I think, for a lot of people during this game.
Den selalu
As
enggak
we
ada Den.
see G2 investing in bot side vision, they'll likely reset.
Gue taunya
and play
Faker.
up towards
Iya,
the top
Faker.
side to take
Siapa yang enggak tahu
control of
Faker
that
kan?
Baron
Kalau
pit
ini
once
mah
again.
aku ke
It's a
Bali
really
kan udah di Bali
interesting
ngapain ke Bali?
dynamic where it feels like a lot of the fights are being determined
Jadi
by
gue
the
beli apa?
impact of
Ayam
mid
gebok aja,
laners.
pengen gebok
The
ya.
problem for Maple now is Caps is about to hit level
Paket
60.
ayam blonde
He is
anjing.
well and truly online, and in a battle of who can take out the enemy front line, I feel like that it's just slightly favored for Caps right now. Maple
Ada
though still
cemilannya
a
nggak sih,
huge
Din?
threat, 9 kills, 3 items completed. He can't
Cemilannya
afford to
keju,
be
jengkol semur,
underestimated.
jengkol
What we've
goreng.
seen is, as Chronicle was
Ikan
saying,
pihi,
this game is largely
anak
about
ikan.
execution of the
Ini
team
anak
fights.
ikan, coba
Whoever can
sempet
get
sate
that
usus,
better
sate kelir, hati
start
angkot, telur
will
dadar. Oi,
ultimately be able to
suara
climb
lu
up. So
nggak
even
jelas.
if G2 find themselves with the gold lead for now, I wouldn't rest on your laurels because PSG, they're poised to find a good fight, and if they can, this game can quickly turn once again.
In the PSG versus BLG series.
Enaknya minggu gini kemana ya?
They took some liberties
Ke pasar
with
Minggu.
some of the engages, but PSG was just
Betul.
sitting there patiently waiting.
Tapi iya kan pasar hari Minggu kan, jadi pasar Minggu.
Trying to look for the comeback team. If you're in a team fight
Yang pasar
composition,
Senen.
you're sitting on Soul Point,
Iya.
and you're like what, like 3K gold behind at 27 minutes. In the grand scheme of things, I don't think PSG is going to be too worried, but we do need to see them. I think the biggest changes in a lot of the fights have been
Selama ini tuh kenapa?
targets. And in the last one,
Ini
was
di rumah
successful.
lu.
In the Baron fight,
Enggak, ntar
wasn't
malam
able
gua
to.
pergi.
That is going to be, I think, one of the big difference makers as we get here. And towards the Baron, I feel like either team can use Baron as a tool. Actually flipping it after the last play, I would shy away.
The bit Caps is pushing in the bot lane. My expectation is here. G2 just want to start it and maybe get the
Selama
TP out of
Caps
Maple.
gak mati aja, anjing dia nggak split push dong, Caps tai banget liat noh. Nggak bisa dilawan soalnya pilihannya kalau nggak ngasih tower, ngasih Baron pilihannya.
Udah fat banget kristalnya, Cok.
Naik Bison, yoi. Oh, cuma di doang anjir. Ya mau di take over gagal. Kelamaan.
Patience was crucial here for G2, but ultimately they walk away with the objective. Ginger being on the bot
Nick
side,
banget ya,
looking
tai
back
banget ya.
with a very
Caps anjing
dangerous
split push
position
temannya
for
pura-pura
PSG
Baron
to
anjing.
find themselves in, but
Ambil
the
satu
good news
balik.
is that he wasn't spotted. So G2
Apa
they
yip-yip.
back away from the Baron. They're happy enough with the tier 2.
Anjir, udah ini lagi deh. Udah punya apa namanya itu yang bulu?
17. We think back to his game 1 versus
Navori.
where he got the Tristana, a good early
Biar
start,
skill
really
3
started
cooldown
full
terus sama
second
skill
side,
2-nya
but this time
kalau
though,
critical.
redeeming himself, finding
Kan
good
non
fights,
ultimate kan.
pressure on the side lane is very difficult for PSG to manage as the gold lead only grows for G2.
Ornament is done now for Aji. That's a big buy, but
Dan
I would
naga.
love the Frozen Heart. Feel like that
Naik
item,
naga.
especially into double A to carry comps, even after all
Asli
the
ini
nerfs,
Capsnya udah santai,
still
Capsnya
gets
selama
an
gak ketangkap
insane
pemenang
amount
ini.
of value.
Caps sama Hansamanya.
Look again at the map. We see
Damage-nya
Oke,
si-
udah fat banget ini.
Iya.
Kristalnya, Cok.
Damage ke PSG cuma dari si ini doang, cuma dari ADC soalnya. Mid laner kayak ya udahlah.
Dari force doang udah, anjing.
Dang. Pukul sekali, pakai stack. Woi, anjir. Gila, Cok. Mikinya gila anjing. Keren banget itu popinya, Cok, enggak bohong gua. Popinya. Anjing keren banget. Iya, popinya bener pakai skill 2. Anjir, quadra kill. Pentakill. Wah. Iya, ada shield serap.
Ya, dikasih parah.
Kalau Talia
dikasih, parah.
kalau Talianya nggak punya serap masih tadi tuh.
I don't think the Baron is going to be
Rawer.
as G2 again
Parah nggak dikasih, parah.
on the flank.
Oh,
Gila
parah
anjing,
lagi.
lihat gak popinya tadi nge-stop skill satunya Vi anjing, timingnya tepat banget.
Not tanky enough.
Flash skill 2. Padahal bisa inhib gak sih? Oh, mereka mau 2, mau Baron sama Naga. Coba ololok, kenapa jadi cosplay ololok nih? Dar anjir. Keren banget, ini juga bagus banget lagi si Broken Blade.
Bisa gitu ya?
Bisa. Ini popinya enak, makanya Rap popinya enak ini. Buat Nautilus nge-cancel. Fai nge-cancel. Full lethal tempo. Wah, anjing di dodge. Ah! Soalnya olok tuh yang jago si Woko, gua kan cuman imitasi. Wah, udah kayak ikutan war. Dar. Ah, enggak skill 3 dia. Teng. Anjing itu Nautilus gak ada harga dirinya, Cuk.
Itu tank apa tank anjir? Kagak ada tebel-tebel cok.
Anjing dalam bener. Anjing itu kesantai loh.
Udah fix.
Udah dia mah nggak bisa ini. Udah nggak bisa ngebunuh Capsnya, udah nggak bisa. Di pil parah. Apa di five ngapain? Tim Kome PSG terlalu nyulik anjir, kagak ada ini. Itu foto megang samurai, bukan megang samurai, udah megang katana. Itu gua. Samurai dari Jepang itu. Ilmu bela diri. Baby faker nih bos, hati-hati loh. Game 1 G2 easy.
Faker versi Eropa.
Iya. Baby Caps, Baby Faker dari dulu terkenal. Lo tau gak sih video yang Faker sama si Caps rap? Nih, lihat nih. Mana ya? Ada shorts ya. Gue lupa di sini apa ya?
Really can be. PSG showed us a lot of good things in that game. You have to remember against BLG, they did go behind as well, and then they were able to fight back in the best of five.
Apa sih anjing gini doang, Cok?
We're gonna do something.
Sebelum ini kemarin dong pas kemarin main kan T1 lawan G2 begini doang udah berdua.
Kagak jelas nasi.
Seriusan itu gua. Foto kecil. Waktu gua belajar ilmu bayangan waktu itu. Ilmu pedang bayangan. Sama
Sebenarnya Shinobi cok.
Apa?
Akbar Shinobi sebenarnya tuh.
Iya dulu gua tuh Shinobi.
Yeah, we'll say though the early game a little concerned, Lore.
Yeah, it was a bit confusing what they did here.
How many times does Zach need to die with bombies under turret? That's the question here.
Well,
Siapa yang hibul?
We don't know the upper limit,
True.
but we know what the floor
Someone out
is.
there
Gua tuh
in chat
kenal
should
deket
make
dulu
a
sama
bet
Kakashi
on
anjing.
MSI, we need that
Gua
step.
dulu bareng sama dia seangkatan.
Make it better in the early game for
Cesan,
the
Cok.
next game, but
Iya.
actually it didn't take that much for them to come back. Just one good opportunity.
Kan yang bantuin dia belajar Chidori gua.
And thanks to the reliable Cisco network, Caps buys time for his teammates actually, and the
Jadi
rest
kunci
join the
percobaannya Akbar itu
Yeah, the
cok.
TP comes through, there's a
Zoro
three-man
kagak
dive.
Zoro waktu itu masih belum datang dia.
From
Waktu itu
Kasami,
Zoro masih
so
di
there was a
Gintama
time
kayak dia belum nyampe ke
W.
Konoha.
Another win from Caps is that he sticks behind the turret, so there's no
Anjing
way from Nautilus to come in and
di hook pas lagi di ini aja pas lagi terbang.
between him and him. So, like, it allows
Ini gara-gara
the
ini
rest
sih.
of the team to come in clutch and
Di
save
sini
the
sih
fight.
dia
Back
ulti kena
into
3
this,
orang
we
GG
see
anjir.
Mickey being super clutch with Hansama there to
Ngasih kebuli yang
get
set foot,
one for
mau
one
nggak?
and then buy time for the rest of the team to close out this fight. But as was
Masih
the
kebuli
case
ada yang set
with
foot,
most
Cok.
fights,
Ada.
Caps was key
Lah
at
itu
the
yang
start of it,
justru
and Caps was
video
key
Hanif yang viral
at the
pertama
finish
kali
of
itu
it as well,
yang
with
kebuli
a
set foot.
really
Kebuli.
nice,
Iya.
reset into
Set foot
double
viral
Q.
pertama
Red
kalinya Hanif
actually
itu.
did amazing
Ingat
here
banget
in
gua
this
dulu.
push to almost get a
Kalau saya
triple.
tuh itu seri kedua apa ketiga ya?
No, Caps actually did live. He
Set
actually
Apa
foot.
nawarin set foot?
We'll
Iya.
highlight Caps a bit
Set
later,
foot
but,
episode
we
2
know
apa
how
episode
deadly
3
his
gitu.
first
Tapi
pick
udah
can
tutup
be.
yang
Actually,
jualan.
an amazing mid lane pick right now.
Nggak
So
tahu
far.
tutup
Anjing.
ganti nama.
G2, I don't want to talk about
T1
the
LoL main lama nggak
control
nanti?
fights and the way they approach them,
Main
because
lagi nggak
there's
nanti?
been some
T1 LoL kayaknya nggak deh.
but the
Hari
way
ini
they
cuman
managed
PSG
to
itu.
turn this one, this is the key moment in the game, I felt. This is the moment you know that G2 is going to be able to grab up the win.
Yeah, this is a great opportunity because they end up
Tapi
getting a
Zeke emang
knowledge
anjing
from
banget sih.
Zach, who's like, I will take that actually. And not only that,
Makan gua
Betty
set
can't
foot.
hit. Just
Oh iya.
simply put, he is
Gua kemarin
completely
siang
separated
tuh
from
makan
the rest
set
of his
foot,
team.
anjing,
So the whole chase
Anip.
down that G2 end up going for, he's not able to
Lu
participate.
pernah nggak dia makan dimsum dalamnya pecah anjing?
as we zoom out a
Dalamnya
little bit,
buyar.
led up to this fight.
Ih anjing.
So
Udah kayak ini kan?
Spoiler.
Kayak frozen food. Frozen food apa namanya?
built
Kayak
follow
dimsum
Radiance
frozen
in the
food.
laning phase against Broken Blade.
Tapi udah nggak fresh.
Big 3,000
Iya,
gold
tahu,
item that wasn't
Buyar
dedicated
anjing
to
dalamnya
living
udah
against
kayak
Tristan and Jarvan
bubuk
first.
bumbu
So he
di
was not
Indomie
nearly as
anjing.
tanky as you'd expect later in the game. The second thing would be every clip
Kastangel
was
nggak ada
Caps just getting
asin-asinnya,
more
kejunya
and
cuma
more
ada
gold,
satu doang.
and once
Mungkin
he
asinnya
was
dari
at
keju
3
nggak?
or 4 items, it really
Siput.
simplified
Iya
team
anjir,
fights
sayang
from
sih
G2
di
because they
dekat
could
rumah
just
gua
hit
nggak ada yang
front.
jualan
Not
itu
only
anjir.
was the front
Tutut.
building an MR item
Harus
because
ke
it needed to
BKT
win
gua
lane
kalau mau
phase.
beli tutut.
Secondly, they had
Yang
four
ceban
Tutut
dapat.
di
Yes, and I
jalan
will
baru
say, I
ada,
hope this is
Cok.
a calming game for
Tai,
G2.
kalau dari
There
rumah
were
gua ya
definitely
dekatan BKT
moments
anjing.
in the game where they looked
Iya
a little
sih.
nervy, specifically the sequence when Broken Blade died under turret, lost
Gak
his
ada
flash,
asin-asinnya.
and about
Berarti
30
cuma
seconds
makan
after
ini
that,
doang ya.
Caps flashed behind
Ujung
turret,
damage
trying to
dotnya
kill
Caps
Maples
32.000,
together.
tapi
So
masih gede
both
loh
soloing
mid laner
the
mereka.
flash for very poor reasons. After that, though, they were able to stabilize.
Yeah, and
Pasti
speaking
Talianya
about
masih
that,
bagus
like,
kok.
nerviness,
Talianya
you've
bagus
heard
emang.
from Dylan
Cuman di sini
before
tim
the game
komnya
talking about
jelek
just
rap.
not overforcing and being
Len.
patient with your leads.
Buat
And then
berantem
you
tuh
get that
kurang.
15-minute fight in the
Iya.
Dragon that they
Yang
end
bisa
up
jangka
losing
panjang
out
berantem
because
cuman si
they
itunya
just
doang,
straight
cuma
up
si
engaged,
Taliahnya doang sama
way
Kasante.
past into the blue side jungle. And Han Sam was like,
Bodoh
I don't have
nanan.
flash,
Harus
I'm at the
harus
dragon, I
mid.
cannot help
Kalau
you
dibawa ke
guys,
late
and I'm
susah
your
ini.
damage.
Kagak tuh harus ADC itu.
That's another example of like, let
Cuma
them
dibikin
come to me.
assassin.
Iya kalau
Because they're
nggak
walking
maksud
into
gua
fog, you
kalau
are the one
dibawa
with the stronger
late game
front
nggak
line.
bisa
They
kan
cannot
Fons.
walk into your
Iya iya.
J4
Nggak, dia
and
harusnya tuh
Zac.
makanya
So
harusnya
don't
tuh
put
main.
yourself
Tapi
in
sekarang
a
lagi meta
position.
assassin Den.
They
ADC
readjusted
assassin.
though.
Gara-gara
And
item
yeah,
yang
as I said,
size. Oh, Lip, ale.
as I said, maybe
Lip.
cleaner game next time, cleaner early game. I feel like that's the
Lip.
feedback that Dylan is gonna
Halo,
give them.
Lip.
On the side of
Iya,
Install
Lip, apa
install
kabar?
lagi lah Lip. Follow Lip.
Because
Oh boy.
we usually
Lu
are used to
mah
seeing them
sekarang
grabbing
Iya, kalau
lanes
Tapi
main
nggak
lagi
usah
kalah.
kompe.
up the game until the point the opponent
Unread
cannot
aja.
come back. What missed here do you feel?
Gue mau ini dulu, Cok, yang
Maple
pas
played great on
ini
Talia.
kan.
Betty was great on
Tai,
Varus.
tai.
Lah,
They had a strong
Manusia
role
tai emang anjing
Iya,
emang.
langsung.
Ini dia dulu emang satu akademi sama gue rap, dia ninja dia.
Like, oh yeah,
Monyet.
Aja can't build the thing he needs when he's getting slaughtered in lane by a magic damage
Gue
champion.
jadi
Suka jelas banget orangnya
So I
asli.
think they just kind of run it back, try not to tilt. Get control.
Ngobrol aja, cari yang kayak gimana. Ini ada Raden nih.
That's minor because Caps has like 85 champions.
Punya
Kayak
bisnis klaster rumah 3 biji ya Den ya.
Yoi, banyak tuh.
Saran film seru tapi nggak berat. Willy Wonka.
Rumah
dia
rumah anjing kan
lagi zoom dia tuh orang.
Siapa lagi zoom?
Si Alip lagi zoom meeting.
Allahu Akbar. Masuk Discord lagi meeting. Pacar fiksi maunya. Itu tolke. Tolk apa ya? Gue lupa nama AI-nya.
We know PSG's resilience though. We know their ability to turn
Lu punya
series
bisnis
around
cluster 3
and
biji kan, Den?
surprise everyone, which is what they've been doing so far. Any
Iya,
draft
rumah
adjustment
itu
on their
anjing
side
tapi.
maybe, because as you said, Ben G2
Rumah anjingnya doang ya, kagak ada anjingnya.
thing to do.
Yang romance, aduh gak suka nonton romance. Gue kulit berak. Ntar dia berak dulu deh sambil ini.
Exactly.
Nunggu game.
Nautilus, I
Mulai.
wasn't a
Ntar
big
ya.
fan. It's just really difficult to
Pantatnya
engage
Nora, anjing.
Vi and Nautilus into Poppy support. We saw T1 pick Camille into it. Please, I would just enjoy if you're like an enchanter support in generally, or just like a bot lane that has like maybe Jinx Lulu or something like that. Just anything that's generally easier, because if you see this draft, I think they had the right information and then they just kind of walked into it. So.
Yeah, you can say they're bans game one, Rek'Sai, Orianna, Draven. I think you could ban Zac in the 4-5 if it's going to last that long. I don't necessarily know if I want to drop one of those 3 core bans for PSG, but I don't want to let Broken Blade have Zac just because of the just ridiculous effectiveness it has in starting and finishing fights for Broken Blade. So that would be the one small adjustment I'd make for PSG.
All right, let's see if they listen to your guys' advice. As we go to break, though, PSG and G2 are backstage at MSI, so let's check out thanks to the Oppo Cam.
大家好，我是 PSG 的辅助乌迪。然后下一轮的话，我们会证明我们 PCS 赛区的实力的。
Hey guys, it's G2 here. Thank you guys for the support, and I hope you guys will be watching us at MSI. See you there. See ya.
Aduh. Mari.
Mari.
Apaan nih teman gue nge-share TikTok. Anjing. Rewatch di Mileo. Discordnya Winda kenapa nya Den? Ya Raden ini
Hilang dia.
Anjingnya lucu, yoi.
And welcome back to MSI 2024 here in Chengdu, China. We are ready for Game 2 between G2 and PSG in this elimination series. Let's get into the draft. Lickety split. PSG elected to be on the red side, so we'll
Pasti
see
yang bagus
exactly
di
what
Prime
they
banyak tuh, The Boy Who Want to Become a King apa. Aduh kali salah sih, bosan banget gue liat. Oh enggak, ini game yang tadi anjing. Bandnya sama. Enggak, band Jack anjing, ini udah band sekarang ini. Tapi bandnya sama anjing dari G2, Sena ACS Lucian. Itu juga Rek'Sai itu sama ya elah. Masih ya sama persis cok pikir.
It does look like PSG is looking to run it back though. G2's going to run it back as well. PSG, is it the Talia lock-in for Maple? I mean, the team fighting was still great in the early parts. They ended up losing out on the front to back, but they've said, we think that the Zac was the problem. Does G2 now just shift their priorities and instead prioritize
Gak seru banget cok, cuma ganti top laner anjing. Ya elah.
You know what? They're going to do the salty run back.
Run it back.
Sukanya misteri. Itu V, misteri yang The Boy Who Wants to Become a King apa gitu. Misteri itu. Ya elah, pikir sama begini anjing, bosan banget. Kenapa Jarvan lagi sih? Jarvannya gak impact padahal.
Doesn't matter. Who cares about 80 carries, man? They're not relevant. As we are currently at what 3 weeks into.
Gak tahu gue film romance gue nggak tahu, masalahnya nggak pernah nonton soal romance, anime romance aja jarang. Malah udah nggak pernah gue nonton anime romance. Kemarin tuh yang nggak sengaja nonton gara-gara Rizky. Itu pun juga nggak gue tamatin.
Itu juga salah sih.
Iya, itu juga nggak gue tamatin, cuma nyampe episode berapa? 7. Bosen.
to know where
Itu
everything
juga
is
Rizky
going
salah.
on G2. And they have the R5. They picked red
Udah nonton 3 episode baru nyadar bukan anime yang gitu, tolol.
So they replaced a LeBlanc with a Tristana.
Free range, bener sih free range sih. Aduh anjir. Bagus banget.
I don't imagine G2 is going to ban away the Norliss. I imagine they'll stick with the Renata.
Kaiju Bar nonton Bar.
Not to.
Kayak 8 ya. Ntar deh.
Iya.
Itu salah satu watchlist gua.
Bear in mind, this was the man that even though
Gak mungkin di sini lah, gak mungkin di stream lah, ke band anjing.
multiple times he still said, "No, I'm still gonna play it."
Kecuali itunya Muse Asia.
PSG is just doing exactly the same.
Kemudian nggak kalau Muse Asia?
Oh di Muse ya nontonnya.
Iya.
Tahu
Don't
gue.
like that smile from Caps.
Maksudnya copyright soal copyright ke Muse.
Oh iya
Don't
sih.
get baited by the hovers, guys. G2 is they love playing around with your hearts. Something like an Azia. Twisted Fate top is going to be the angle for G2.
TF. Broken Blade main TF. Tinggal lihat mid-nya G2 pick apa. Aja gini picknya sama persis cok. Tinggal top laner dong ganti. Jangan kesate juga lagi top laner PSG. Hah? Wih, nggak jadi LB dia bro. Gadis kretek. Wow, rap. Ini baru seru rap. Mat minggu, oke mat minggu. Ini baru seru rap. Ah tai. Udah tadi Yasuo seru. Jangan Jax Yasuo udah bener. Biar kebuli lu landing anjing sama TF ya. Ah nggak seru tai. Wibu K-popers. Ih, Wibu K-popers lagi.
Basically just because of the E on the Jax, obviously great.
Jangan lupa ibadah minggu anjing.
I also think it can make the life very miserable for a Kalista too. I ultimately like what PSG have. They have very similar front to back. Their front line isn't as strong, but they have a bit more backline threat now. Once the Vi is diving in, the Jax is going to be there to work with the Vi a little bit more. While the back might be a little bit more vulnerable, there's not as much follow-up as there was before, because once the Jarvan goes in, there's not going to be a Zac to follow.
Yang lebih parah ada
Fate might get a little creative with how he uses the Destiny, but I think there's going to be a lot more dynamics in terms of how the fights play out. It's not as straightforward as a traditional front-to-back this time
Lebih
around.
parah.
For G2, bit more finesse involved. The Zac-Jarvan combination we saw in that game really be so tough to deal with. Very straightforward. Just get onto the enemy front line.
Emang itu anime apa? Manga apa?
This time around,
Gua
much more
Windbreaker
side-laning
bukan kan?
pressure though. That is something that PSG is going to have to be able to deal with.
Si coachnya PSG kayak ini deh, kayak orang Korea.
Can be such a menace in the early game. We'll see if PSG is actually going to utilize that to try and find an early
lead.
Levi. It was actually fine. It was more mid-game where the trouble started arising.
Levi ini kan? Oh iya Levi pas bersih-bersih. Abangnya Sera, enggak bukan. Gue cuman ini sama Cewon, tapi Les Rafimnya enggak.
Which team is able to come out on top? PSG and G2 both lost their first games earlier on in the tournament against
Hasbu sih tahu mah aja Levi, Gojo. Hasbu sih tahu mah.
Doing the PCS proud so far at this tournament. It's been a long time since we've seen a PCS.
Onya Kopon dong, Onya Kopon ya Rap ya. Siapa namanya Rap yang di AOT? Onya Kodon, Onya Kopon.
Onya Kodon.
Onya Kopon, ini nih, ini dong. Ah, rasis.
Going for the fleet, which in lane obviously gets a ton of value. The movement speed is nice. The extra sustain helps into this bully matchup. And also Betty, this time around, he doesn't have as much frontline and he's not playing into as much frontline. So just going to be playing the lethality Varus with a lot more squishy targets. Going to be easy to get.
Orang Eropa bro, anjing. Iya, maksud gua kenapa Hasbu tuh cuman Levi, Gojo. Kenapa nggak ada yang ngehasbuin Onya Kopon? Gue nanya. Kok parah lu? Gojo sejuta umat, coba sebutin. Banyak orang-orang bahkan yang nggak nonton anime pun kalau ditanya hasbunya kamu siapa? Aku Gojo. Padahal mah nontonnya cuman episodenya satu episode doang. Hasbu gua Armin, ya Armin masih fine lah. Meskipun karakter penting juga.
the more time he gets to play on stage, the more comfortable he
Itu kayak orang tuh nge-hasbuin, nge-waifuin tuh karakter-karakter mainstream MC tuh, atau nggak karakter penting di anime tuh kurang menarik ya kurang keren gitu. Kayak gue nih, gue tuh bukan hasbu sih, gue favorit gue tuh karakter di One Piece tuh si ini. Siapa? Gue lupa. Kizaru. Orang pada suka apa? Joro, Sanji. Ya elah bro, mainstream. Suka sama karakter mainstream.
Azure in a bit of a sticky situation here. Ranged into melee is always hard for the melee, but especially when Yike actually passed towards
Ngaswin Megumi. Ya elah bro. Karakter-karakter biasa. Sasuke. Ya. Point of view lu terlalu kecil. Anjas.
Anjir.
Penglihatan lu terlalu kecil. Karakter cuma itu doang. Ya. Beda lu cuma Onyakopon. Oh sahabat gue bro Onyakopon. Onyakopon. Aduh panas banget kamar gue kenapa ya? Jangan-jangan gue domelin Gojo ini. Karakter terlalu mainstream bro. Manusia biasa. Suka tuh Onyakopon. Terus siapa lagi? Yang jarang ke spotlight. Misalkan, bentar gue minjem meja majuan. Coba orang nggak nonton anime gitu kan? Lihat deh karakter ganteng di JJK. Oh langsung nonton anime JJK. Oh, wah hasbu gua adalah Gojo. Wah. Oh my God, Gojo so handsome. First bloodnya udah kebunuh ke Varus. Bertot, waduh meninggal. Emang ganteng, iya emang ganteng. Cuma maksud gua terlalu mainstream. Ya mati. Pah, tolol. Woi. Jungler div anjing, Vi-nya nontonin doang.
4 minutes into the game, Junja, he thinks that he can go for this fight. Mickey only level 2. They try to force it. They think that they can collapse first, but in the extended fight, the pressure that Caps has in mid, the early skirmishing power of the Callista means that G2 walk away with 4 kills.
Big thing here is that yes,
terus apa lagi kayak apa namanya Boku di Demon Slayer yang mainstream buat jadi hasbu siapa? Namanya gue lupa.
Aduh gue lupa juga yang itu yang rambutnya kuning kan, yang api.
Iya. Rengoku anjing. Oh Rengoku.
Iya Rengoku.
Hasbuku Rengoku. Iya elah bro. Hasbu tuh demon gitu. yang awal yang lidah panjang. Hasbunya itu baru menarik. Hasbu kamu apa di Demon Slayer? Rengoku. Ya elah. Mainstream banget anjing. Karakter penting. Nih. Skill 2, skill 1 meninggal. Dar. Oh di flash. Seralu bang. Sorry guys. Aduh.
I think in the end PSG is not going to feel too bad about that trade forcing the flash, but it's not
ini ngapa sih dia? Oh nungguin ini, nungguin grabs.
Again, due to the early
biar nggak kelihatan.
to find more of these.
And this is also Betty has a serrated Dirk and Hansam is still starting on his starting.
Biasanya tuh hasbu siapa ya sirap Gojo, Kakashi. Terus siapa lagi rap? Hasbuku Nomu High End, mantep. Nah ini baru nih menarik nih. Hasbunya Nomu High End, anjir kalau bisa berbicara anjing. Oh iya hasbunya Todoroki. Anak sekolah anjing. Hasbuku Nomu High End. Mati Junja, oh enggak. Kalau capture dari setengah masih bisa dilanjut tuh.
No one dies. So PSG is like, they use the boats of resources.
Sama kayak waifu,
We're making
waifu
it
yang
alive.
mainstream apa, Rap?
But it's
Waifu
still
mainstream, Rap.
G2 that is going to maintain the
Waifu
pressure.
mainstream?
Another
Waifu yang
early
mainstream.
objective in the form of this crab going to Yike.
Siapa ya?
Itu siapa sih? Yang karakter cewek yang paling cantik itu, Rap? Gue lupa yang anak sekolahan yang matanya lebar banget. Komi, siapa namanya?
Oh, Komi-san.
Ya, Komi-san.
One of the biggest differences is the skirmishing power that G2 has this time round. The fact that it is
Anjing, gue kira udah tayang.
Tristana definitely has some decent damage. You're seeing how much more willing G2 is to
Turki
actually
Chop
fight
tuh Hanif
in
live,
these
guys.
early
Hanif
trades.
live, Hanif
And,
upload
PSG, I think that they're kind of being caught
video
off guard. Game one was
ini
a very
Turki
slow,
Chop, gue udah
passive
nonton
trade
sih.
back and forth where PSG was able to accrue small advantages, but now G2 is just really bringing the fight to them, moving around the map a lot and trying to fight as often as they can.
PSG is still attempting to make plays. There's still Maple there, Shadow towards top. Maybe looking for a
Kalau
direct
waifu
broken
di
blade.
Boku no
With
Hero
his flash,
paling biasa
maybe
siapa,
he
Rap?
can get a flash counter strike off, but not only his
Waifu.
caps already
Jarang sih
rotating as well,
Boku no Hero
Yike
ada
knows how to
itu.
pull it off. Yike
Rata-rata
was also
tuh Boku no
standing
Hero tuh selalu
in
fandomnya
between
gay,
tier
jadinya
one and tier two
jarang
waiting
yang
to
normal-normal
see if
manusia gitu.
something would
Kalau nggak
happen.
Fury, gay.
Wasn't the case. PSG, they gotta keep finding, keep looking and try
Boku
and
no Hero
find
tuh
some of the
aneh-aneh
openings.
anjing
So
shipnya.
there's this
Tado
wave
apa
starting to stack up in
Bakugo
this ball side.
Deku
Ginger
anjing.
is pathing towards
Todoroki
top with level
Deku,
6.
kenapa sih nggak
Does
normal
set
aja
up
gitu
for
loh?
a potential
Oco,
Dragon
udah
Maiden
dibikin
revive.
ya normal aja ya. Siapa namanya? Oco, siapa namanya? Rap?
We
Ocok,
talked earlier about
ya itulah.
Ya,
Dulu.
si Oco lah.
try and alleviate some of the
Si
pressure that
Oco
Caps are
itu.
putting down. While Caps is
Sama
low on
Deku,
mana,
udah normal
you can
itu
see
kan.
what he's able to
Malah
do. He
dibelokin
still
ke
has control
Bakugo
of the wave.
Deku,
Maple is very hesitant
Todoroki
to actually
Deku,
approach,
anjing
and
the fuck
I
man.
think that if Ginger doesn't do something about this, they can't leverage one of the big
Ayo,
strengths
kalau
of
mau
Maple,
Isoma,
which
oke.
is his ability to roam and utilize that wall to lock down the bot lane.
And the threat is also BB pushing out top lane, now just walking towards mid. He was
Ya.
spotted on a ward.
Kocak.
Lots of things happen.
Hilang
on him.
satu wave,
So
hilang satu
Maple
minion.
knows he could be collapsed on.
Nah,
Ginger now
dari
here to
di geng nih,
answer.
dari kiri nih.
Blast cone in by Yike. There's the
Oh, enggak.
Destiny. Will G2 still go for this? Maple no flash. Ginger there with the Bolt Breaker just to try and stop any advances, and G2 decide that the turret plate is enough.
One of the big things about this is we talked about that bot wave that was stacking. That's now gone. That window, that opportunity that Ginger potentially had to make something happen has disappeared. And that's just from the pressure that G2 is able to exert in mid lane. And you can see how suffocating it is for PSG, how they're very quickly losing options in terms of what they can do in the early game. But definitely shouldn't count them out. We think about their late scaling options. We know that their team fighting is
Lawan
strong.
nih,
We
Bang
saw a very similar
Mondri.
composition to this in the previous game. They have a lot of single target
Tadi gua
lockdown.
kenapa
They have a
itu,
lot of
lupa
pick
lagi,
potential.
saya
And Aja in a side lane is going to be someone that's very difficult to manage for this G2 composition. So even though they find themselves at a deficit for now, it's not all doom and gloom for PSG.
Biggest issue that PSG are gonna find, or rather are gonna be able to deal with, is simultaneously not losing all
Dapetin
pressure on the
Prio
map,
mid,
but also respecting
dapet
G2's
naga.
skirmishing power. Right, the
Prio
downtime
mid.
of this ultimate, for
Prio
example, from
bot lane.
Broken Blade is something that you're gonna look towards. But that is where, to me, and the desk highlight is as well,
Midnya di
this
zoning.
poppy pick is such a nuisance. One of the biggest advantages that you have is Maple.
Maple
Ya,
gets out.
cepetan.
Just eats a distortion to the face.
Yeah, as I was saying,
Kecepatan
before,
buat
Caps
kabur.
rudely interrupt me, forcing out the ultimate though, which denies Maple again that map pressure that even if he does get out of lane, now not going to be able to find.
Tapi
Is
gue
that
nggak ngerti di
Flying
Eropa nggak ada
Over
yang pakai
specifically is
metanya
so
itu loh.
good at
Metanya
getting you out of
T1.
rough situations. But if you try to play that
Kalista
into
Assassin.
kali.
and Poppy just in
Susah
general,
dia
it
skate
is
kali
so
apa
much
gimana?
harder,
Agak risky mungkin
particularly
apa gimana?
two
Tapi
very
sakit banget Rap,
mobile
anjing
characters
sekali
like
satu
Jarvan
setengah
and
darahnya anjir. Orang
Really
pada
interesting sequence here. The bot lane from PSG has both backed. You can actually see Betty opening.
susah di
through
farming
bots.
aja
He's
sih,
gonna try
karena
and
attack
finish
speed-nya
out
pelan.
Summer. Both the supports though are
Clearingnya
passing
lama.
through that mid lane with Grubs now up. PSG have almost perfect information of the surrounding area.
Taibet di
Caps
smite.
in the base, likely has his first item and has the TP, immediately uses it. There's the Luden's companion.
Langsung digas
Will
satu biji pasti
PSG
nih.
decide to take
Grabsnya
this fight?
diambil.
They're looking at it. Kalista looks like it's going to be making his way towards bot. Last time we did see Betty
Ambil
rotate,
dua ini.
but PSG, this is
Karena
the
masih punya
skirmishing power
smite
that G2 have
si
with this
Jarvan nih.
composition. They're a little hesitant. They don't want to take the gamble and they're going to concede.
Oh
That
enggak,
means that
diambil
G2
tiga-tiganya.
secured
Masih ada
first
smite.
dragon, all 6 of the grubs.
Di all-in sama dia.
And something that you talked about, Chronicler, in the draft was how G2 do have a lot more side lane threats. Those 6 scrubs are going to offer a lot of value when it comes to sieging those towers, and Twisted Fate just being a split-pushing menace.
It's really tough. Additionally there, PSG, the
Error
moment they lose
order
control of the
is
banana
on
burst,
the
they're
way.
like,
Okay.
we can't walk up, right? Mickey, especially with Flash, easy for him to lock down, but it's kind of a lose-lose situation here for PSG. I agree with the call to not go for something there, but they're not really finding anything on the cross map either, because
Exactly.
as you mentioned, Hans was at the ready to go. So PSG getting to the objective, then seeing that it's not that great, and then backing off means that you're going to fall
Dar.
a little bit behind. The lead that Aja was able to build up in top side, now slowly starting to
Tuh,
fall
tim ini
away
ada
again.
apa ya?
It
Gue
was
nggak
one
ngerti
of
deh.
the
Yang
few,
side ini deh
I
banyak
think,
dipakai di
moments or
ADC
opportunities rather
assassin.
for PSG.
Caps look for Maple. First chain
Sakit
lands.
banget, buset.
Maple takes half his health. He's 2 levels down as well. He's in such a hole right now.
Oh,
One
beda
of
2
the,
level, panesan.
oh, hang on a second, Caps.
Caps would have to jump back onto the unraveled earth here. He does so. Ginger finds him, but Yike's already got one. Caps dashes back. Will be able to escape from the clutches of Ginger, and Ginger now needs to try and escape.
Wih, anjir, didot.
Is that Civ HD? I see on my screen. You just can't touch
Gila
him.
emang
Caps
baby
gets
faker nih,
another.
bos.
Caps
Senggol
and
dong.
Yike, the mid-jungle 2v2 coming out on top. Betty uses the ult.
And Summer has the face call here. Mickey might just flash, hammer, shots into the wall. The cleanse
Dah,
will be
kocak
enough,
banget. Nah.
but not as he tries to get
Pulang lu.
away at
Oh,
the
udah
end.
cancel.
Woody coming in stops the keeper's verdict, but Woody in a moment will realize there's no minion wave here for him to defend. He will. Well, he's not going to
Dah,
allow Mickey
mukul
to.
kocak.
Mickey.
Oh,
Mickey
di
take
ulti.
the tower that you
Barisannya
got.
berani.
Take on him. Flash. Oh, Mickey. He didn't need to hit Woody. What are you doing, Mickey?
I don't know.
Maybe he
here-
thought
here
he
we
was
are.
already in range for Fate's call before the tower shot comes in.
Maybe, because Maple was also initially heading towards bot, and his ultimate was like 5 seconds of cooldown.
Top lane play,
Or,
PSG.
or it was just a mistake. I don't know. You guys
Mickey
are
making a mistake.
You guys are better at judging that than I am. Okay, I'm gonna leave you to be the judge of that.
We don't call him Mickey XT for no reason.
Yeah, I mean, it's either Mickey X marks the spot or Mickey XD. And,
X mark
you got a bit of A and a
spot.
bit of B. Now, G2 obviously find themselves in a commanding position, a 4K gold lead, largely off the back of this mid-jungle duo. Yike making his presence known in the enemy jungle. Mickey at his back. There's Caps.
Caps masuk.
He's trying to get away. They jump onto
Mati
Maple instead,
taliannya.
and Mickey's here once again. Caps with the chase. Destiny, where you going? Maple across
Kena.
the wall, but the
Dar.
gold card will follow you.
Dapat lo gold cardnya anjing.
Broken Blade locks it in and puts Maple in the dirt. Now Ginger next up for G2. They continue to
Dah.
collapse, dodge the hook.
Mau
Benny
apa
coming in
anjing,
from the
jauh
side as well, but he realizes they're outnumbered right now. The chains connect on Ginger. We'll just
Anjing
take
ini
him down
Caps
to half HP.
gendong
All this
parah,
speed,
cok.
likely over a rift held into a Drake.
This game is rapidly deteriorating for PSG. They're losing full control. They're no longer able to walk into their own jungle. And the moment,
Ginger mainnya bagus tuh.
especially against the Fet LeBlanc, this mid
Junglernya
lane turret
bagus.
falls. You're going to be in so much trouble as Woody just dies.
Just decomposes in front of our very eyes. Chain of Corruption did land onto Yike. Ginger coming in as well, but you can't bolt breaker out of the steadfast presence.
Aneh PSG
Is
anjing.
the death knell for PSG. 12 kills to 3, a 6,000 gold lead for G2.
I mean, Caps
Free
is
game dah,
just a
game dua.
menace. We talked about how in
Next,
game
next,
one
next.
he was
Game
playing
dua,
with
game
so much
tiga.
more confidence. You give him the LeBlanc, one of his most comfortable champions, and he is just running circles around
305,
PSG.
307 Jarvan sama
The top
Lipan.
lane has the Triforce complete. The gold card locked by
Aja.
BB. Will only buy him a second. Yike is here. BB flashes the wall, and Yike dashes away. Importantly, though, Azure able to stop the Rift Tower from going down. G2 had to react to defend their top lane. Hansama getting chased out by Maple here. The Weaver's Wall available for Maple. Will he go for more? The answer is a negative.
TP.
behind. Never mind. G2.
It's Caps.
They love to fight. It's Caps. Woody there for it. Weaver's Wall away. Woody will be able to walk to the safety of his tower.
mau
There's no
apa
terrain
nih?
there for him to dash to. He catches Caps underneath the turret. The mites! The mites! That's why they're called mites and not the cans. Can't take down the turret right now.
Oh my goodness, that Caps is going to secure it. 12 kills to
Ngantuk
3
timnya
and
berat
8k
sebelah. Iya
goal
anjir.
difference.
Buset nih abang-abang
Caps is
cepet
just
banget
running
baru
a
nyampe
market. I mean, you have to
depan
give credit
komplek
to
aja.
Yike and Mickey too. They've
Ngebut
just
dia.
been working so closely with Caps. Every opportunity, roaming towards mid and just punishing anything that PSG tries to do. The saving grace for PSG is
Mati.
Aja.
Broken Blade.
BB, no flash, gold card locked. Yike coming in as well. Ginger tanking that turret. Azure flashes away as BB
Pasti
will
mati
fall,
tapi
but
super.
Ginger pays for the dive
Apakah
with
worth?
his life.
Kayaknya enggak.
Hansama on the chase. Fate's
Soalnya nggak ada
possible, but unlikely to chase any
Nggak ada
further here as
bounty
Azure
juga,
has a
buat apaan?
half HP tower to
all
retreat
in
to.
kayak gitu anjir.
Mickey with his dead man's plays like, I'm running. I got Swifties. I'm on my
04,
way. Unfortunately, thanks to Junja's
KDA kayak
sacrifice.
angkot. Mati nih sama-sama. Oh, enggak.
Oh boy.
Belok kali, guys.
Can you kill him? Counter-Strike used early. Maybe you
Yeah.
can. Knocked into the
Yeah.
wall. He's running.
Ya
And he
elah,
smashes
sakit
Azure
banget anjing Poppy
against
support
the
anjir
side of
anjir.
Summoner's Rift.
I think the Poppy might be a problem, and I think
Gold
PSG
Jarvannya banyak banget.
seriously
I feel like we've had this conversation
we've done so many times. And then I imagine they watched T1 win the game. I was like, oh, you know what, Poppy's
Terus gua ngambil
Poppy's
makanan dulu.
fine.
Prepare ini.
It's no problem. The problem now for PSG is because they're so far behind.
pencet.
G2 is winning as many sides of the map as humanly possible. That's not allowed. You get to usually win one while the opponent trades, but because the gold leads are so oppressive, Caps has a Crypt Bloom.
The risk for G2 is they are playing undermanned fights at times. Azure has TP in. He's going to go to the mid lane. Summer still in the top lane, but the keeper's verdict makes this a 4v3. Maple falls first, Betty short to follow, BB gets the double, Dredgeline away by Woody, but that anchor is sending him to the depths. Summer, all the meanwhile, he's doing damage to turrets.
It's as you say, Chronicler, PSG, no matter what they do on the map, they're just getting stopped by the aggression of G2. I liked the idea of the cross map on top when they tried to attack Broken Blade. Yes, they got that kill, but it ended up with Azure dying. They also lost the top tier 1, and then Cap still moves down to bot. There's Yike there also to contest the dragon. This game is rapid. I mean, it's not rapidly, it is gone. It is deteriorated, it is in pieces, tatters. There is a 12k goal difference, and we're not even at 20 minutes.
I'm sure Medic has some great puns about the maple tree withering away.
I have a good question, though. Why can Mickey do this when I take all the kills as support in solo queue, I get flanked? Okay, most kills on the team. Didn't go Sundered Sky this game, but Cap's going to chase out Woody as he tries to flash away. Woody more of a walking 150 gold right now is...
That's a support!
Yeah. Yeah.
He's not taking damage. I actually have the answer to that one. In the wise words of Carrier, remind everyone, you are not Carrier, and your teammates are not T1. So in this case, you are not Mickey, you are not Mickey, and your teammates are not G2 Medic.
Very true. For PSG though, so far in the hole, they can barely see the light at the top of it. It's such a struggle for them to get back in this game, and you have to think that their eyes will be going to game 3 and maybe adjustments in the draft.
Maybe?
You understand why they would want to run it back. From their perspective, everything was going well. It was just that when it came to the late game team fights, their front to back, they weren't as strong as G2. So they said, you know what, we'll remove some of their front to back elements and we'll make it easier for us to team fight. And then G2 said, how about we don't team fight? How about we just fight you 2v2, 3v3? And Caps has become a very serious problem.
Counter-strike, heroic charge. Counter-strike dodged, and Azure, yeah, that's not blue skies for the top laner from PSG.
I mean, what's also crucial here is notice how G2, they're not being overzealous with their aggression, right? One of the things that we know about G2 coming into this series, they put a lot of pressure on themselves. They remember what happened at last year's Worlds. They knew that they were heavy favorites coming into that series against NRG, and they fell short. They didn't want that blunder to happen again. And coming into today, they wanted to treat this opponent just like they treated T1. And the patience and execution that they currently demonstrate show that level of reservation. They're not diving tier 3 towers. They're not getting overzealous that we often see.
Keep going, Betty. Keep going. Keep building it up.
Curse is all you
Be prepared for the largest casting curse the world has ever seen.
Oh, come on.
It's G2 casting it's Betty casting a G2 game.
13k gold up.
Surely.
Atlas has been on the wrong end of these before.
He has.
And the inhibitor getting pushed here. Flash in, sees an assist. Caps flashes away from the chain of corruption. Azure trying to dive on the back line. But look at the might. PSG just surrounded by the oncoming hordes of G2's minions. Broken Blade now on the inhibitor tower in the mid lane as they're looking for more. Caps continues to dash in. Betty takes half his health without the chains even landing. And Woody takes more as the Cataclysm finds an easy avenue for G2 to lock up PSG. And they were taking their time, but now they're not ready. 21 minutes into the game, G2 will rip through PSG and go one game away from making it into the next round of MSI.
An absolute shellacking of PSG here. And we talked about it, the draft, you gotta completely switch it up. You can go blue side, you can bend it up. Something needs to change. In game 1, PSG held on to, I don't know, like what, 15 minutes, 20 minutes before a fight, and took them out of the game. Here, it was a level 4 skirmish in the river, Vedi.
I mean, yeah, G2, they're playing well, they're playing clean. We'll see if they can maintain that level, but as you rightly said, PSG, they need to change something up, whether it be about trying to find more skirmishes in the early game, giving themselves a little bit more agency. I think back to their series versus BLG, when we saw Betty on the Zeri, and they had the Zeri Lulu, and they were diving bot. They were fighting Elkanon on their territory. That was the best version of PSG I felt like that we've seen. We haven't seen that so far in this series. I want to see that level of aggression, that level of confidence to go toe-to-toe with G2 in the early game.
Totally agree with you, Betty. We'll see what the analysts agree, if they agree with in a moment, but don't forget to log into lolesports.com using your Riot ID to earn exclusive MSI 2024 drops. We're going to hand it over to the analysts to see if Vetty is correct, which he is. He's smart.
Is he? Really? He's very correct? I don't know. The
what?
confidence is clearly on G2's side here. Setting up the fact that this is what is missing from PSG, the confidence they had, the aggressivity that they displayed in the previous games. We haven't seen this so far, and I'm just wondering why.
For PSG side, oh my god, they tried. These fights are just not working out for them. That early fight that happened on the bot side river that just bled into more and more. And then when the Nautilus hooked or tried to hook under turret, like the J4 under turret, mostly because he was expecting, this is the play that I was talking about. Just go for it.
This is like the fanciest int I've seen in years.
Oh my god.
They had their pinky up and everything.
Because PSG, they did technically get first blood, but the play Mickey made to start it was great. And then I feel like at this point they're just chasing it. Because Woody and Maple could be out, right? The play is over, but they keep stepping up, chasing more things back. They land the hook, and then Maple's like, you know,
not like this.
Yeah,
and from
I guess he thought he didn't have flash.
And from Not's perspective, he probably thought EQ was back up, and with the Talia chain, that he would have been able to get the kill anyway. So like, there's a lot there, and they fell so insanely far behind Jet. You had even mentioned the experience deficit that Maple had in comparison to the 8 and Han Sama. He was completely out of the game.
We legitimately had a discussion, and I know we're never going to see a pro team do this.
Yeah.
But when it's 60 minutes in and you're 13,000 goal behind.
Yeah.
The best thing to do might actually be to end the game.
You
might actually want to surrender because isn't it better to not die more? Because that's the only thing that's going to happen from that point.
They were preying on any mistake, and credit to G2, like, they bled that lead, which was just ballooning into bot lane. The moment Talia went bot side, he's like, oh, you want to take bot lane wave now?
Oh, man.
No, that LeBlanc's following you with the Poppy, with the J4.
And they just steamrolled, and I want to look at this guy here, Yike, in the jungle, the maestro for me of the early game, and it's been a consistent key of victory for G2, the way he sets up his lane. And we see it in game, but also the amount of information he's going to bring to his laners, for me, it's making wonders here for G2.
And I want to talk about him as a tournament-wide so far. Just the 2 series that he's had has been incredible. Like, just the last series versus T1, like outside that last game where it was tough off the level 1, he was constantly working with caps, skipping camps to be able to get like side lane ganks off of him. He was playing incredibly well, and he's extending it to this series. The confidence is massive for him, and I love to see it.
I mean, he's had such an accomplished career, and I know, Laura, you wanted to talk about this a little bit, like we were in between games, that you were saying in the LEC that people are asking the question, like, has Caps reached new heights? It's hard because, like, he's won MSI, he's made a world final. I feel like what made him so dynamic in the past was partially the dynamic he had with flex picks, with perks, when they could play mages all over the map whenever they wanted to. But, like, I imagine, like, if you were to just take the individual player, he is better now than he's ever been, in my opinion. Everyone else has gotten a little better. Like, the game evolves over time, but it's very impressive to me that he's been playing this long and is continuing to play this well.
Yeah, and to just put a cap on the conversation about Yike, I love the fact that we're seeing the foresight and the execution in plays. In, like, for instance, that play when we saw him EQing over the wall in the initial fight, he was expecting a flash out of him, and he wanted to follow him just in case. Because if he didn't flash, then you're dead anyways. And if you do flash, I'm going to be there to follow you. And he's been doing that so far, it felt like every game so far. So I'm really enjoying his team fighting, how he plays alongside Caps and Broken Blade. Because even in the T1 series, once again, not to just hop on that series as a whole, but just like talking about this team, even when Caps is dead, the fight is not over. And how he plays alongside Broken Blade is making this team great. They have so many threats that they can play off of.
I mean, that's the thing. When you look at G2 and the way they evolved, a question that I've been asking them is, what were the learnings from the previous international experiences? Because MSI didn't go well that year. Worlds, we don't talk about this anymore. And they were dominating so much in the league that they got carried away, thinking that they were too good, forgetting the basics sometimes. And I do feel like when you look at their games, especially on individual performances, you can feel that they went back to what they know best, through Cap's performance and Yike, as we highlighted.
Here's a question, though. Coming into the series, I didn't think G2 would be messing around. I feel like they'd be sharp enough because of what happened last year and because of how strong PSG was. Is this where maybe they get a little bit loose?
It might happen.
Yeah, that was my concern.
That's what they're thinking
That
out
was
there.
my concern, honestly, and I do feel like it's mostly gonna come down from the man in the mid lane who's been crushing it so far, because the pace of the game is dictated on whether or not Caps is having fun, but when he's having a bit too much fun, sometimes this is when things can backfire. So far, amazing performance. But for me, I want to look at him in the next game.
Yeah, and of course that goal deficit that he had in game 1 was off of just his own misplays. So they really have gotten a lot better over this series, and they were already starting off pretty good. So yeah, Caps is incredible. The LeBlanc play, probably not going to let him have it again, you know, just so that's back on the ban list. From PSG side, what I want to see from them, actually, Junja is an incredible J4 player. Please take that away from Yike. I think that should be the first step. And also, if they're going blue side, and it seems like they are, going towards Kalista early, I think, will be helpful for them, just so they can at least have multiple ways to be able to play make.
So normally, I'm in the camp of play what you were best at, because it's still going to be your best chance of winning. That's when you lose by, like, a little bit. But if their best thing, which is what they played last game, is going to result in what was a 20-minute game and a 17,000 gold lead, I did predict 3-0, so did you.
Yeah.
This is, in a sense, going towards what I expected, because G2 was a little shaky in game 1, really found their confidence in game 2, but for PSG, they actually do need to change everything.
Oh my God.
So even if they give Maple to Leah, you got to go with something else. Change your bans. They've switched sides. That's the first step. But just absolutely make G2 play different things. So get rid of the Poppy that's been working for them. Get rid of the Jarvan. And that could be just like, give Yike Rek'Sai. That's fine, because it's different. Because you know the same is not going to work.
Nothing has been working so far for them. And G2 takes us to the first match point in this elimination series. Let's see if they can check things out around to come back and give us a series. Let's take a break. We'll come back right after.
Excuse me, would you mind taking a picture of us?
Oh, no problem.
Thanks.
Ooh, yes, problem. You need Verizon. Trade in that old thing and get a new iPhone 15 Pro with tons of storage, so you can take all the pics. So many selfies.
A preposterous amount of panos!
That means panoramic.
And as many portraits of him as your heart desires.
How about none?
None, yeah, none feels right.
Trade in any iPhone in any condition and get iPhone 15 Pro on us. Only on Verizon.
Red Bull gives you wings.
Red Bull gives you wings. Ini sampah kalau minum. Bentar ya guys, isoma dulu isoma sambil nunggu.
Welcome back to MSI 2024, where we are here for Game 3 of this series between G2 and PSG. PSG's tournament hopes on the line. They need to reverse sweep if they're going to keep the PCS here at MSI. For G2, and want to close this one out in a 3-0 and keep Europe advancing through.
So let's see what PSG's adaptations are. They're now on the blue side. The Rek'Sai, the Zac, and the Draven going to be banned away. The Vi being added to the ban pool from G2 means that the Kalista is now unlocked for Betty. Excited to see what they can do, assuming they're able to get that lane priority, as G2 will likely respond with the Varus.
I'm just happy PSG aren't doing the third round back. I was already preemptively getting
Second
worried
pick
about
Poppy,
it.
Man. It's literally just...
But they should.
I mean, it's just...
As long as people keep B1ing Kalista, keep slamming that Poppy, particularly because Cassante is also insanely strong in the current meta. And then, well, you just pick Xin, which is another champion that obviously doesn't really love
lane swapping.
Well, let's wait until it's locked in before we talk about the lane swap. The Rumble
they
has
will
been
lane swap
banned.
with Rumble.
Yeah.
But remember, a big flex here for PSG. We know that both Woody and Aja are happy to play the Rumble. We know how effective it can be as a bot lane 2v2 as well. The problem for PSG is that Poppy is a flex pick. We don't know where it's going to go. If G2 want to keep it as a flex pick, they could just go for the Talia for Caps. Maybe because he's feeling himself, they want to make sure that he gets something like the counter pick so that he has a little bit more agency in his lane. If they want to lock in jungle now, that's definitely a safe thing to do. Perhaps even if they know that the Poppy isn't going to go, okay, look, they're going to lock in the safe mid, the Orianna. He had a great performance on it against T1. Well-rounded, safe, fits into most comps.
Also, I already have a decent ball delivery system in the Poppy. Not the best, but in a pinch, it'll do. Imagine some of the control mages are going to get banned away. That would be the other one, right? If I could see Maple just still gravitates toward Talia just because of her position in the meta at the moment, but you're not playing it into the Talia, or into the Kalista rather, which I think does take away a lot of the value, and there's not a whole lot of dashes on the team either. So we'll see what direction PSG want to go in. I'm just happy that they've went away from just running face first into the Poppy the way that the last two games really did feel. Do have to see though, can they actually enable Betty on this Kalista? Already, Junjia on the Xin Zhao is a very strong early game jungler, but the mid lane matchup for me is big as well, because I feel like Maple also needs to make his presence known for them to actually put the pressure on Hans Sama and Mickey.
He had a good game one, but outside of those team fights, he struggled
akhirnya
to
bikin beda walaupun ada dia sama sih.
shut down. Caps actually going to be banning away the Tristana. Not going to allow Maple that opportunity. We've seen how powerful this champion in the mid lane can be, and going to be respected. Aurelion Sol now as an option for PSG.
I also think it's about who gets pushed in the mid lane, right? The reason that Maple hasn't been able to move is Caps has kept him under his tower quite a lot in the early game, especially in game 2. Tristana can get the push into Orianna, which is probably why G2 are looking at banning it away here. As well as that, obviously having Rumble as the only magic damage source on your team can really facilitate him in those early team fights where the equalizer goes down. So the Jarvan banned away, trying to pinch Yike's pool just a little bit, but Yike has a lot of different options here. Likely to pick support jungle here on 4 and then leave the top laner for last.
For sure, because it keeps completely in the dark where this Poppy is going. Also means that you don't have the possibility as much as you'd like for PSG to pick up, say...
This is really annoying for PSG because
it
it's
is
another flex pick and they just don't know.
We've just gone to the gym, everyone's flexing, buddy.
Yeah,
look at this, look at this.
So the really annoying thing for PSG is you can lock in Cassante and they can do Broken Blade top on the Poppy. They can then put the Jax and the jungle into the Xin, and then they can just answer because they know that the Rumble is bot. They could pick something like Renata Varus, that would be perfectly fine. Ashe has already been banned away, but the Aurelion Sol locked in for PSG, kind of as we expected, a little bit more late game insurance, relatively safe into the Orianna as well. We did see Caps get a solo kill onto Faker in this matchup, but I imagine Maple's going to be a little bit more reserved when playing in the 1v1.
The one thing this does is give PSG, again, a mid to late game win condition, which they obviously love. On the flip side, you were talking, and I agree, Medic, with this Aesol, you're not really going to be expected to have major impacts on the map outside of when you get to the later stage of the game. So more pressure gonna be as BB brings it up.
Has everyone just been practicing?
Vayne top lane.
We gotta go Vayne. Caps is calling for it. He's pretty sure of it. BB will take it into the top lane, into that Cassante. Poppy will go to support.
I don't know if I like this. I feel like I would have preferred Poppy top and then something like something like a Renata or something.
No, come on, man, this is fun.
Here's the thing.
Prex, ya,
If it
ntar
does
jam
work,
3.
even if it just works, you know, okay, and G2 win the game, every team G2 faces from now on out has to be like, but BB does play Vayne.
I mean, that's true.
You know?
It's true. I mean, the biggest thing that I want to see from PSG is just more aggression in the bot side of the map.
Ya kan,
I know
Prex jam
that
3 kan.
Poppy into Kalista is a very Poppy favored matchup, but with the Rumble alongside you, in my opinion, this is like one of the strongest bot lane 2 versus 2s that we have in Pro right now. You just have so much firepower as long as you can get in range, go for those
di
fights.
Indo jam 3
And
ya.
against BLG, that was the best version of PSG that we've seen. So I'm optimistic that we can see them
Tahu ya kalau
fight
Genji
G2
ini
in the bot
kemungkinan
lane,
udah
find
kalah
those
bisa sih.
advantages that they found against BLG.
Let's get on to Summoner's Rift for the third game of the day. Reminder, T1 versus BLG is up after this, depending on how this series goes. We'll, you know, change the start time of that series, but we're not going to delay the start of that series if this is a 3-0 for G2. It will be starting relatively quickly afterwards.
Immediately after this game will be T1 versus BLG.
Apakah
That's
bisa
what I
jadi
wanted to
persir
say.
ataukah akan
That's
tetap
what I
menjadi
wanted to
G2
say.
pemenangnya?
Sometimes the words escape me. Eddie, thank you for being here to
It's
help
all
me
good.
out.
We're
But
jumping into game 3.
we have at least one more game before we get there. G2 on the red side for the first time
Potentially
this
3.
series.
We almost got a reverse sweep.
True.
So that's the start of the bot lane here.
He's looking to split the map
Hello,
here.
Chief,
5-man
ada
squad moving in. You can see Azure already moving down from the top lane. Woody's going to land those electro harpoons. Broken Blade trying to spot if Betty parts away. Flash! Crash into the wall. Broken Blade looking for the damage. The condemned first. Yike could flash with the counter strike, and Betty respects it. No summoners now for the PSG bot laner.
So, remember, like a few minutes ago, we were talking about how
BB
Blades
straight into the gaping maw of an Aurelion Soul.
Hell of Blade anjir Poppy-nya.
The best version of PSG that we saw was when their bot lane was going toe-to-toe with Alkanon, when they were fighting them, when they were, you know, really willing to scrap. And G2 said, no, we're not going to let that happen.
PSG lane
Split
swap.
the map.
Rap.
They take the summoners away.
Lane swap, Rap.
PSG are reacting, they're sending Betty up towards the top lane.
Yeah, they're going
to it. Mickey though just sits in the mid lane alongside Broken Blade and Caps.
Oh, PSG main lane swap.
Slow down to 200
PSG main
HP.
lane
Woody's
swap
now
ini.
joins
Benci
the
Rumble di
party.
atas.
It's a
Kalista sama Rumble.
2v3 in the mid lane as Woody forces them away. Azure here to join in as well. The problem for PSG is while all of this has been happening, Hansama's farming bot lane, Betty's not farming top. Ginger was on his camps, but Broken Blade has been able to get a little bit of XP as well as Yike is working his way through that bot side jungle.
So they're going to go for the fast push bot, I imagine. Make sure that Broken Blade can get
Nah,
some
no, ada
experience
Vayne sama
while
Poppy di bawah
Archer
ini.
largely gets denied. Notice the positioning of Yike as well. He sees where Ginger is and he's going to go for the invade.
Vayne-nya mau nggak mau
BB's looking
harus
for
roaming,
the
nggak
collapse
bisa
onto Ginger.
di
Azure
atas.
stops the
Kalah
gas.
dia, mati pasti di atas.
We'll get his
Dipaksa
razor
berantem terus
beaks,
2
but
lawan 1.
now Mickey's going to knock him away. Broken Blade ghosting in as well, looking for the condemn before Azure gets to the safety of his tower. There it is, Pathmaker, well played by Azure, but can he survive the continued dive? Tanking up his Hun, Summer takes a couple of shots, Azure ignited, and Azure falls for first blood.
Nah, ini caranya counter.
He just goes back to lane, trying to catch the wave. I think maybe the fact that Broken Blade was there should come back up, but it shouldn't. Given how that the early map played out, the fact that G2 split towards the bottom half, and he doesn't end up laying level 2, he just dies.
So the whole logic here is that, I mean, PSG showed us
Loh,
this in the play-ins, right? Where
ini
you
Jax
just overstack bots, you
jungle,
go for the
anjir.
faster push, you're able to secure more
Baru
plates, but your top laner also gets some XP. It might not be a lot, but it can be enough so that once you swap back,
Kesannya pakai
they're in a better
sprint tapi
position
masih
once
belum
they
dapat
actually get into the 1v1. And as you already see, Broken Blade now a full level up over Archer.
Kesannya kemana? Kesannya ke mid lah tuh, Rap.
Is that Yike pathed in a way is Caps.
Azure's going to be able to get the Pathmaker into the wall. Cap still has the flash, tries to turn it back around. It's ringing around the rosies. Caps flashes again.
Anjing dapet dong Capsnya.
Oh, how do you do that twice? If I had a penny for every time, I'd have 2. It's not much, but it's damn surprising as Caps outplays the 2v1.
How did Caps make that happen? I was convinced that he was going to die. I wonder if he was able to delay the passive fully stacking by running around the Aurelion Soul. A solo kill secured for Caps. An incredible series for him. And this early game is very quickly falling apart for PSG.
Not only that, but something that we saw so many times of G2 is that they're already swapping again. As we take another look at this, Aji is level 1. Like, he doesn't offer anything outside of the initial stun, and then Caps does exactly the same thing here. dodges most of it, flashes over, ball still in position, and because Yike was there,
that was oh my god,
that's an appropriate response. Because even if Caps ends up dying there, it's not the end of the world. But because he not only gets the kill, but then also gets out with his life, it's just a pure disaster for PSG. And the one thing that we wanted to go well for in their bot lane has been denied the 2v2 continuously.
No, Mickey, he has his eye on mid, Hex flash over the wall.
They know he's here though, they saw the control ward, Mickey didn't spot it, so Maple just hugs the bottom side of his turret so he can't be slammed into it.
That's good. PSG trying to mitigate the aggression as much as they can, but it's got to feel frustrating for PSG because I'm going to keep coming back to this. The reason why they could fight BLG so much was because they had options, they had tools, they had ways in which they could go toe-to-toe in the early game with BLG, but G2 is taking those tools away from them. They're breaking them in front of their face by utilizing the split map, by smart pathing from Yike. They're making it difficult for PSG to really have options, and the moment that they did find one in mid, Caps just outplayed.
PSG have done a good job of keeping Woody and Betty away from the G2 bot lane though, that 2v2. You can see Betty actually at the moment pushing in top, Azure based before the
waktu lawan T1 dipakai ber.
Trying to get into that 2v2, but my expectation is Betty will just crash this wave and then immediately they'll reset and go bot onto that wave that Azure is catching.
Yeah, that's a great point, Medic, because you look at the top lane differences almost levels now between the top laners, and suffocation.
Ngambil plating dia. Udah kelar.
She's definitely falling behind, and a Fed Cassandra, at least I guess I could say a very weak vein is going to be very delayed in terms of its impact, which could mean that PSG come these mid-game fights could be in a favorable situation.
Broken Blade actually the lowest experience in the game, and that's with him being a solo laner, so this time around PSG found an opening.
They'll get the Grux there. I don't really think G2 want to take this fight. They're clearing out a little bit of vision. Azure 2 levels up will get a plate for himself in the bottom lane, but PSG working the map very well through this early sequence. Go for the grubs instead of the reset to bot. Now they can look to catch this wave as it crashes under their tower, and then after the push, if Ginger still stays around, they can try and reset towards bottom lane. Azure no TP as the engage happens for Mickey, and Woody falls low. Mickey down to half HP, Azure applied in from the side. Counter strike on Ginger, will get the stun. Hansama flashing over the wall as well. Trying to take out Betty, out of vision now though. Stars descend, doesn't hit anyone. Ginger down to 300 HP. Hansama takes the kill on Betty. Ginger having to dash and flash away. G2 continue the chase. Azure's now here.
He's running.
Oh lordy, he's definitely doing that. The ghost back in.
He's running. He's still running, Medic.
It's not really going to do too much. A little bit late to join the fight.
Even with Caps not hitting anyone, the initial vision in that brush, we saw that in the T1 series as well. The fact that the Poppy, even over the wall, can get the wall stun onto the Rumble, one of the biggest sources of damage for PSG in the early game, means that the subsequent skirmish is basically impossible to win for PSG.
And evens out the game for G2 as well. Broken Blade had so much free time in the bot lane. He's now level 5, Azure's just level 6. Piercing out dodge.
Aduh, nice try.
Gold lead for Hansama in the bot lane. That's a 500 gold lead for Mickey, who is running Hail of Blades in this game. And a 400 gold lead for Camps as well. So all the smart movements around the map by PSG kind of undone by that fight beginning, when maybe they could have just taken a longer route back to their lane.
Ultimately, PSG not completely out of this game just yet. They find themselves in a deficit. All plates are going to be secured by their bot lane. Azure is in a great spot overall. Sitting on 3 core farmers.
Sometimes you're really cold, Betty.
Sometimes you just need that extra bit of padding. Of course, going into a Vayne matchup does make a lot of sense. Dragon is on the cards, and with Yike covering around the bot side of the map, he finds himself a bit behind in XP as well. Been working with his team a lot while Ginger has been prioritizing the farm. You can see that in the camp discrepancy as well. Caps controlling mid pretty well. Responding in about 2 minutes time. Overall, gold lead for G2, not the end of the world for PSG. They still have ways to fight back in this game.
I do want to give credit to PSG though, because even here you saw like Betty and Woody push
out. Oh, yang pakai lens swap PSG-nya.
A couple of minions died to the turret. Hansama and Mickey try and answer it, but Azure's already on his way back, so no minions crashed into that tower without someone being there for the XP and gold. Broken Blade pushed out top, but Woody's already there, so it's actually really intelligent. The question is, can Azure survive? As Mickey looks for the dive, Woody here to help out. Hansama tanks a tower shot, and Tofu 3 doesn't connect, and D2, I expect, will just back away from this, but it's very good lane assignments from PSG to make sure they're not losing too much XP and gold on the map.
Ginger even stealing away the red buff, and there's nothing for Yike to get in the cross snap shockwave.
Shockwave goes in. Broken Blade with the condemn.
Lah, nggak dilanjut
Should be
anjing.
able to get
Tolong
away from
Broken
this
Blade.
one. Still had the flash.
Report.
Oh,
PSG that
takut
has been
diulti
able to
kayaknya.
benefit most is
mati.
Junja already level 6, Broken Blade. Can he get out of this one? I don't think so. Flashes the wall. Junja doesn't have his flash. He can. In fact, BB escapes with the final hour flash combo.
That's still big though. Vayne without summoners is much less of a threat in the side lane. Won't be able to step up nearly as much, and Betty is going to be able to push here unrelenting.
I mean, PSG have done a great job of
Nah, ini baru
suffocating
nih
this
kali
Vayne.
salah ini,
Bedic
Rap.
has been talking about it extensively, about how they've constantly moved around the map and constantly swapped, and it's been paying dividends for them. Aja, of course, still behind, only level 7, as they look for another dive.
Good pathmaking from Aja. Mickey immediately has the flash away. Chain of corruption going down as well. The piercing.
Counternya ini ya. Counternya Xante itu Poppy.
Surprising, but the result good for G2.
One of the big things with lane swaps is that you need to recalibrate how tanky you are. Particularly for champions like Cassante that are pretty reliant on trying to play very much in the thick of things. You have your Stukups there already. If you are sitting at like 8
Enggak, dia
CS,
hitungnya bukan
you probably survived
des
that.
atau itu soalnya.
Instead, it took return away.
Hitungnya movement kayak jalan dia.
Being forced into a loss, and Hansama getting further ahead.
Aja TP in behind here, popping the ghost as well. Hansama trying to get away, doesn't have the
Tai
flash.
bet diputer-puter, Rap.
For him,
The Rosies.
Where we go?
Diputerin aja itu dibet pakai spin.
Oh, he's going back. Which way? And Tovo's three.
Tidak.
Hansama's gonna die to the tower.
Tidak.
Woody?
Tidak.
Shut down.
Harusnya dari awal dia kayak gitu, Cok.
Because if he hadn't healed, he would have died earlier. But he also may have been in range.
500 gold lagi.
So, I mean, he tried his best. But PSG, they're finally on the board. They get a kill. They get the shutdown as well that Hansama was sitting on. Ginger also in a great spot. PSG, the Dragon still available. 4 grubs to 2. The gold really not that different. G2 had a great start, but you can see how the momentum feels like it's slowly shifting.
This is really, really big. I think these type of moments, particularly in a game where you're down match point, 2 match points in this case, getting these type of small wins, particularly with... We can look at the gold and see, for PSG, situation isn't all that bad, but if you're in the game, just seeing the kills come through, you can feel much more threatened. When you look at the item parity as well, Maple...
Gua mau ambil minum gimana?
Betty has just finished the opportunity already on the Dirk, so barely behind Hans at the moment.
The place I will say Maple is behind is in Stardust stacks. He's only at 68 right now. Obviously, as you go through the game, you do stack up a little bit quicker, but usually you're looking at about 10 a minute, at least at the 20-minute mark. 200 at 20 minutes is where you want to be. Good Aurelian Souls at this point in the game are usually at least cresting the 100 mark.
He's also a much cheaper item, right? But it's at least the utility of the item is there. And that's, I think, the main thing for Maple. If they want to try and win some of these early skirmishes with Rumble as level 6, Ignite available as well.
Ginger level 8. I feel like PSG should feel confident to try and take this fight. And
Azure's moving down as well.
G2 going to respect it. No TP on Broken Blade, of course.
G2
should be
there.
there.
The Keeper's verdict looking for Woody. Knocks him away. The equalizer there. Counter-strike into Smite. Yike takes it. Mickey walking away. Yike still has the leap strike. Junja has Audacious Charge, but I'm not sure you want to charge any further or any more audaciously as Betty gets onto Mickey, knocked into the wall, the cleanse away. Mickey dodges away from the equalizer, but his life should be forfeit as Woody flashes. Electro Harpoon into the Arcane Comet is enough.
It's okay for PSG, but it's still a lot of investment into not getting the early Dragon. And on the other end of the map, Broken Blade gets the opportunity to just farm up a little bit, catch up in experience. And as we can see, as a result, not as far behind as he was before, at least when it comes to the levels.
This Poppy just continues to be a nuisance. They do end up finding a kill, but once again, it's just... Yeah, the yeet that comes out from Mickey to knock Woody out immediately gives G2 a numbers advantage. They then use Hansama's Q in combination with Yike's Smite to be able to secure the objective, and Junja couldn't quite get the Smite off. Shockwave?
Oh, Breath of Life. The Shockwave goes down. Mickey looking for the knockback as well. Mobile will have to burn the flash. Woody here, burning through camps. No mana on the G2 mid laner means that he can't force any further.
Alright, so Maple loses a summoner spell. Still has to be careful as Caps playing on the very edge. Has his flash up, but... With Woody here, I don't think he's going to flash it. Mickey might, though.
Oh, was Mickey spotted by Betty? I saw a couple of pings going down on the map. It looks like Mickey instead will just take this time to put vision down, but actually it wasn't even Betty backing. It's Betty in the bot lane. Hex flash over to avoid the control wall.
There was no pings. I don't actually think they know Betty.
Betty trying to retreat. Hans Summer looking for the fighters. Betty has no way out apart from Flash. The piercing arrow still pierces through his heart as G2 find their fifth.
And Betty wants to hold on, but I think you have to flash there immediately and just try to negate as much damage as possible. Instead, takes so much damage, ends up giving up the flash. And Mickey with a great flank here behind enemy lines, takes down the Kalista.
Fortunately for PSG, they're still going to be able to get across map. Herald going to be secured, which gives them options to lay siege onto the mid-tier 1. Yike, though, in the vicinity. Broken Blade's still very weak, though, yet to complete his first item. Can Yike steal this one away?
Leap strike, counter-strike, smite would have been a possibility. Starts with the counter-strike. Woody coming in from the side, but the leap strike always available for Yike here. No real threat. Riftail picked up by Ginger as PSG. Even gold score. Mickey jumping in. Betty, no flash, chain of corruption. Ginger on the flank, though. Yike diving in onto Betty, who's force low. Yike flashes, gets it. Equalizer on the backline. Woody falling so low as well as he managed to pick up one counter kill. TP in by Maple. Caps returning the favor. Ginger goes in with a crescent guard, and Mickey knocks him back into his team. Needs to be inside that ring to do the damage. And Caps just waits for it to explode. And the arrow right through. PSG by G2.
Oh, Hans! That's the type of target practice that you dream of. 1 for 2 with the arrow. They're unable to get onto one of the most fed members of G2, and as a result, PSG struggling in the skirmish.
Turns out Hans bought the AWP, and he's getting Collat's hit on Summoner's Rift. 2 for 1, 5-1-2 now on the Varus Maple. You're not even allowed to fly these days. He's looking for his frequent flyer miles, but Mickey having none of it. Knocks him into the wall. Tower falls in the bot lane. No local gold picked up, but the gold that was even just a moment ago now extends to about a 1.5k lead for G2.
I mean, I respect that PSG is willing to skirmish, but it's just a fight over the mid-wave. Varus, the ultimate comes out, but it's actually initiated by Mickey. You're seeing how difficult it is for the Kalista to move into the Poppy. Yike then dives in alongside them. Good Poppy ult. Mickey's just so good on the Poppy, isn't he? He makes everything come together. The TPs then come through from both sides. I was surprised to see Junja still trying to fight this, playing with confidence in the 2 versus 3 effectively. But Monesi would be proud as the Collat comes in.
Right there, those moments, a lot of cooldowns used as well for PSG that could instead have been saved. I don't think PSG is not going to be in a position to try and contest for the second dragon, but it is not what you want to see, particularly in a game where you're down 2 match points. Crucially though, Maple, I think, does have the upgraded ultimate available here. We'll see if that's enough to get PSG the teamfight win that they're so desperately looking for.
Drake up in 25 seconds with the G2 second of the game. You don't have to fight it if you're PSG. You can see in terms of combat gold, they're behind by about 5 percentage points. Azure looking for this mid lane once again. Flash available for Hans Summer. Yike the only one on G2 without one as Yike goes in, knock into the wall, the counter strike. You can bring down the heavens, but it's only Yike who falls. 1 for 1 so far, but Jungler's going down as Azure tries to get in, rooted with the chain of corruption. G2 now starting to retreat. Broken Blade still in the top lane, no TP, remember, so this is always going to be a numbers disadvantage for G2.
A nice trade back from PSG after G2 initiates the skirmish. Both junglers down means that the dragon is going to be hard to secure, and as you rightly said, numbers in favor of PSG. Maple going to go bot to push out that wave. Aja actually making a beeline back towards top lane to catch this wave, knowing that he has the TP to rejoin the fight should another one break out.
We'll see both members, the junglers that died, make their way over again. Look at the ultimates that were used. I think much rougher on the side of PSG. That empowered ultimate in particular, that's kind of your big trump card. When it comes to these skirmishes, Woody also doesn't have the equalizer available. I wouldn't be surprised if PSG decides to let this one go, particularly with Mickey standing guard. Maybe a catch on Caps.
Caps has flash, has the shockwave pulls too. The counter strike follow-up. The falling star not going to be enough as Yike falls low. Caps actually separated from the team. It was the singularity. But once again, it's Mickey going in. Maple flashing away. Caps on Summer. And Mickey Mickey trying to
Sama
fight his
skill
way
doanya
out.
Poppy.
TP burned as Broken Blade
Skill
works
doanya
its way
si
down.
Aurelion Sol.
Back towards mid, might just be looking to push out that wave.
G2 should just buy time, wait for Broken Blade to push in the mid wave. Betty.
Mickey has flash. A couple of spears go into his back. The root with the chain of corruption. Ginger taken out by Hans Summer. Mickey with the steadfast presence. The cleanse not enough to keep Betty alive as Hans Summer takes down a double. Breath of life, breath of death for Mickey. Azure going in with the all-out. Hans Summer still alive.
Gila dari shootnya Caps anjing. Yah, kocak. Ngapain ini Maple anjing?
Broken Blade will chase him down the hill and arrows for the slow. Broken Blade takes out his man.
And Broken Blade shows up, takes his loss.
3-0 ini mah.
Guys, you didn't even need me. As PSG desperately trying to get something out of this early game. Overstepped so much, and I'm gonna sound like a broken record, but this Poppy, like Mickey's playing it well, but you've seen so many of these fights. It is so hard for PSG to get anything done because they're engaged. Relies on Junja going in. That doesn't work. A lot of their consistent damage is gonna have to come from Betty, but even with the lethality, you're gonna have to do at least a little bit of hippity hoppeting, and that just is not happening.
Hippity hoppity, get off my property!
That's a great breakdown, Chronicle. I couldn't have said it better myself.
Oh, I'm sure you could have actually. That ending was a little rough.
No, let's look back at the hippity hoppity. So it's Caps that actually gets initiated on by Junja. He lands a great shockwave. We're seeing this a lot in these fights. A jungle for jungle exchange. Yike on the front line kind of melts to the damage from Maple. And then it turns thanks to the TP from Aja. Oh, we don't have time. We're back in the action.
Okay, so Maple rode in the Rift Herald, and Caps and Mickey are just here waiting for him. Keep his verdict up. Caps down to half HP. Maple trying to trade back, but I don't think you win these. The channel stopped with the heroic charges. Yike fights on the top side. TP in by Azure, but he's going to be met by G2 as actually Caps side on the TP as Azure's already fallen. PSG wiped away again. Betty trying to hibbity hobbity, but he just can't find anything.
And this is right in front of Nash. That's going to be the Baron gone. The take with that Vayne is going to be quite
Easy
rapid.
Baron.
And Betty alone can't do
Ngantuk
anything
anjing
here.
nontonnya cuk.
Two sides of the map. G2 find advantages. PSG, they're trying to force a skirmish on the top side, knowing that Caps and Mickey are bot, but Yike just comes up clutch. The Baron now secured. G2 need to escape, and PSG's tournament lives are looking rather dire.
7,000 gold in the hole right now. The PCS on the brink of being eliminated. Caps takes a spear to the back, but he can just reset. Yet to die this game. Rabadon's on its way for him. PSG, I mean, one of the surprises of the tournament was their performance against BLG, how well they played team fights, how well their bot lane matched up into what was widely considered the best bot lane in the world coming into MSI. But today, G2 have just outclassed them.
This all starts with them attempting to take down a Broken Blade, but Vayne is so slippery with the summoners up and the ultimate. And then I think PSG feels safe because they are playing, or they're seeing G2 play on the upside of the map, but with the teleport, that numbers advantage doesn't matter as...
Azure is on his lonesome down here, and Yike and Broken Blade will happily take the kill. G2 find another. Drake up in a minute 11 would be their third of the game, and you see how quickly the game has exploded away from PSG.
PSG have found some incredible comebacks before in this tournament, and they're going to need to find another one to stand a chance against G2 with this kind of deficit. Betty, one of the star performers of this roster, has been completely neutralized at the hands of this Poppy pick. Now 3 levels behind Hans Summer, and angry G2 is beginning their siege with the Baron buff.
It's a 4-1 split. Broken Blade in the bot lane. Doesn't have the power up yet, but these towers melt like butter in the face of Yike, Hans Summer, and Caps. Now they'll path down towards this bottom side. Make sure that Broken Blade can take the turret. No minion wave in mid for a couple of seconds. Mickey just standing over here, buffing up this wave, so PSG have to deal with it while the rest of G2 path towards bot.
Maple initially was looking for a flank, then took the Hexgate top, pushes that out, but they're just not going to get anything. The pressure from G2 is way too much. As,
this is the best.
At least the mid inhib. I imagine both inhibs are going to go down here very rapidly unless PSG pull a trigger.
Ginger pull back with the shockwave, puts the Crescent Guard down, Singularity out by Maple to stop the advance of these minions. Is it 200 stacks? Slowly getting towards that late game Aurelion Sol, but I'm not sure the game will go on long enough for it to happen. So a little interesting bit of tech there for Mickey. Charges the ultimate, cancelled it with by basing, and then you get the ultimate on a shorter cooldown, obviously. Just a quicker way to cancel it if you are playing Poppy, it seems. But G2, a little mechanics, not really the story of this series.
They do have a 9.5k gold lead, Manic. I like your attention to detail.
100%, a ton of people are going to start playing Poppy support after seeing it over these last few days. At least you can say you know a mechanic, even if your hands aren't that good.
I appreciate someone who's detail-oriented, okay?
Ginger gonna try and get something back as he secures the Scuttle Crab. G2 will now just turn their attention to the top lane, and it feels like it's just a matter of time. PSG have done some incredible things at this tournament. They've been able to really make a name for themselves, and I think that many people are going to respect them. Expectations are that we'll see them at this year's World Championship, regardless of the outcome of this game, as G2 continue their assault onto the base and look to round out this series 3-0.
Last inhibitor up.
Okay.
He had the edge of night there for a bit of shielding, which meant that
I understand.
not working. TP behind. Azure. Last chance saloon for PSG. Can they find it? All or nothing, you say. The skies descend. The equalizer only onto Caps. Pathmaker. Caps flashes away. And now the counter punch is landing. Broken Blade chases Ginger out. Already we see Azure fall on the front line, and Broken Blade has the flank against 3. Can he do it? The final hour dashes away. Woody flashing in, and Mickey finds his man. Maple has to flash the wall. It's a double for BB. Maple falls as well, and only Betty left alive for PSG. Not for much longer. Good cleanse, though. Who will survive to watch his Nexus fall. There were doubts about G2 coming into MSI, but here they breathe life into EU as they make it to a matchup against top esports.
A convincing series from G2.
Nggak seru.
Filled with the pressure of the World Championship from last year, looking to not disappoint their region. They have a strong performance from start to finish. Caps deathless in both games 2 and 3. And PSG, they've shown of some incredible things in this tournament. Fantastic comebacks, great team fighting, and some amazing star performances. But today, it was not enough against G2 Esports.
PSG, game 1, everything looked fine. We're able to hold on for a large amount of time, but I think that game 2, that was the backbreaker. Running back the same draft, and from that point on, you're sitting at an 0-2 deficit, and it makes everything so much harder. G2, gonna be very happy. This is the type of win you want going in as you make your run into the tournament.
Going into a matchup against top esports, PSG take a bow, though. Remember, made it through playoffs. Took down FlyQuest in very convincing fashion, then almost took down BLG, who were widely seen as one of the favorites for the tournament alongside Genji.
Like gini bro, server bro, anjoy.
From not even being in this match. G2 the same, obviously, but I think if I'm a PCS fan, I'm very happy with how PSG have
It's of course a little bittersweet because of how close you were, but I definitely agree. An impressive performance, and I'm hoping to see them at this year's World Championship with that same level of play.
Totally agree with you, Betty. We're going to hand it over to the analyst test to break down that series.
Dominant series from G2. I liked everything.
Now,
today.
that
I also
was
love the fact that for once we did not get a content game.
Maybe at least one. Maybe you could have gotten one.
Yeah.
I mean, they're on the edge of content in game 3.
Yeah,
but they really
just kidding.
Exactly. Mickey's Poppy is so good. That's a series-changing pick if teams are going to let him play it.
Yeah, I really like the adaptation this time around going for the Rumble, but man, like, the Poppy was really effective. And even in this game, just stopping the Aurelion Soul from even getting away, Mickey had an incredible series. Caps, of course, same to him.
Yeah.
In fact, that's the player of the series. So.
I mean, who else? Honestly. A happy Caps is a Caps that plays well, and for me, he had a great, not tournament as a whole, but this series was a statement series from Caps.
I really think it was. Look at that, 23 kills, only 2 deaths. So he's part of 50, only dies twice. Carried the late game team fights, and even outplayed the early game ganks, and where this series really was decided in that game 1, because I feel like that was where PSG had the most confidence and G2 was actually the most nervy until Caps kind of took over, and after that everyone else on G2 just backed up.
Yeah, talking about outplaying early ganks, his play against the Aurelion Soul, he did it again. He did it before to Faker, where he was running circles around Aurelion Sol so he wouldn't hit him. And this time around, it was a 1v2. He got the kill and flashed over the Raptors wall. How? This was the play!
Here it is. Like, who does this? Who doesn't just flash away?
Wow.
He's just so ballsy that he knows he's going to get the kill. That was the sickest
No,
solo
Rapian
kill of
lo.
the event so far.
Playing to the limits. And he's happy. This is the face of a man who will murder you in the next series, because the next series, guys, is gonna be a tough one. I want to say we're gonna take a look at the lower bracket to see where we leave things after this one. Top Esports is the next opponent for G2.
Yeah, I mean, not easy. I don't feel like they're going to have an easy opponent for the rest of MSI. They took care of business here where they needed to win their first lower bracket game. But the biggest thing is going to be what Jackie Love and Mako do to G2's team. I'd say Hans and Mickey had a really, really good series. But here's a more important salient point here. Like, G2 is actually so good. I know a 29% win rate is not as much as G2 would like, but it's a hell of a lot more than 8. And that's what everybody else from NAEU has been able to muster.
I like these odds. Don't know for you guys.
Especially after that Game 5 series that they had versus T1, and you compare the TES series versus Gen G, like, I would say kudos for TES for even making that series close, because they almost went the distance to be able to get the reverse sweep. So don't sleep on them. But if you cast your mind back to TES versus Fnatic, you know, I think Cream is somebody that actually has had really like a waffling tournament thus far, and he's going to be going up against Caps. That is the one matchup that I have for G2.
Do you remember, Jad, what we said during the draw show? With G2 Esports would rather face up against T1 than Top Esports. I guess we're gonna see that matchup after all.
We did ask
and I do, and
they get both.
And they get both. They get both in the end. But at the end, I mean, if you want to be the champion, you have to play all the teams. But with the progress that they've made, I want to see how confident they are now facing.
Yeah, I think they should be a lot more confident because of how well they played T1 and how dominant they were today.
And I think TES should be pissed off of just off the last series. They feel like they could have had it, and I think 369 and Cream would have wanted better performances. So I think they're going to be coming in fired up. That's going to be a great series.
Obviously, we have to say goodbye to PSG here, but as the casters said, great showing from them. We'll see if we can see them later at Worlds, but we're headed for a quick break here. But stick around for the Verizon post-game interview with Caps and Broken Blade coming up next.
Gitu kan. Tes, oi. Kenapa nge-lag ya stream gua? taruh di ganti kaca biar kelihatan. Jadinya terlihat. Iya, diganti ke kaca. Tadi itu berubah pikiran. Jadi itu berubah pikiran. Jadinya lebih bagus pakai kaca. Ngomong inventory ya enggak lah, kan masuk lagi ke dalam, jadi nggak buang-buang. Terus sekarang jenis connect mahal banget, mendingan beliin aja deh, tapi kelamaan. Harusnya sih lebih murah dibandingkan halo nih ya. Kita bolongin ikan ayam, salah satu bangke nggak dapet. Lagi deh. Ayamnya keluar, mati.
Versus T1, I guess many people were wondering, will they be a bit overconfident, you know, going into this opponent? But how overall was the approach?
The approach was for sure a little bit different. I could feel there was not as much tension going into this match, and we could see in the first game we were a little sloppy in the beginning, and then we ramped up. And then game 2 and 3 were very clean in my opinion. Played very good League of Legends. So I'm very happy we didn't take them lightly, and we're actually playing our game, and I think it showed.
Caps, for you the same. You had a monster series, I gotta say. But how do you feel you did overall? And when you look across both of the best of fives you've played now, what do you think about the level?
Thank you. I mean, I think the T1 series was some good moments, some bad moments. I think they were doing good plays as well, but I think especially the last few games, I dropped the ball, so that's why I picked the Oriana today, so I couldn't pick up the ball again and throw it at them. So yeah, I think it went a lot better this time.
Okay, when it comes to the team cohesion, I think Yike is someone who was very outspoken about being disappointed about how that series ended, and we know how important mid-jungle synergy is and how much he is, the younger guy on the team or the least experienced. So how are you working with him to make sure that, it's all good and he can refocus for those next series?
I mean, I think we definitely had, it definitely feels bad, I think, to lose like a series like that, and a lot of fans also very disappointed, right? Because when the closer it is to being winnable, the more frustrating it feels. And we definitely, I think, had a good meeting afterwards and made sure that everyone is like not taking things too hard with people say negative things, because we proved that we can win games against T1, and I definitely think we can win against any team in this tournament. We just need to play our best selves, and if we let our emotions get to us,
win against T1 sejak kapan udah lawan T1
mabar. That's how we actually.
Speaking of opponents, in a few days it's Top Esports at Broken Blade, so that's a pretty tough matchup, I would say. Overall, how do you feel you match up to them?
I would like to say we matched up pretty well against them. I mean, as we showed so far, I feel like we showed a lot of good performances, and I think Top Esports, they obviously did almost a reverse sweep, I believe, against Gen G. So they're definitely going to be a tough opponent. But now that we have a couple more days to recover and practice, I feel like we're going to be having good odds. So very excited to play against 369. Last time I played against them wasn't too great, but excited.
I think we should touch on that just for a second, because, wow, your performance has been absolutely incredible. I mean, the T1 series versus one of the best tops in the world, and you held your own. And more, I want to say, is that the fruition we're seeing Out of all that practice that you have put in recently, of course with Alfari
jadi
as
kayak
well,
setengah.
and how much do you think that is going to be the key to getting far at MSI?
I mean, definitely, I could really feel that this year my lane phase improved quite a lot. I put a lot of effort into that. I still do every day, and I think that's the main reason why playing against these guys is feeling way more easy than the previous years. Obviously, me and my team, I feel like this year we elevated our
dari kemarin, maksudnya nggak ada suaranya anjing.
The games don't feel like very random anymore.
Dari kemarin gue bingung main ya, kok nggak ada suaranya sih anjir. Ternyata gue matiin soundnya.
To winning everything than last year, so I'm very confident, very excited. I go with this mindset into the game and. Then good things happen.
Then good things happen. Thank you so much and good luck. Europe is behind you as always.
Thank you.
Nothing but excellence is the expectation in today's featured matchup presented by Mercedes-Benz, where bot lane legends BLG's Elk and T1's Gumayushi go head-to-head.
BLG, they were tested, but they still get it over the line.
These players elevate what it means to play AD carry to a whole new level.
It's another team fight. The T1 win at 24.5 minutes. Why does this keep happening?
Hailed as the best bot lane this tournament, Elk is poised to claim his first international title here at MSI 2024. With the world's title to defend, Gumayushi will do everything in his power to deny Elk the privilege.
T1 will be your 2023 champions.
They haven't met since last year's Swiss stage, where Gumayushi got revenge for MSI 2023.
T1 getting torn through by the BLG lineup in the final fight of the series.
And show T1 the strength of the LPL.
T1 versus BLG. T1, a team that was always the bridesmaid, never the bride, until they shocked everyone and won the World Championship last year, versus a team with similar storytelling when you look at their last year in the LPL, but now finally getting that LPL title. And just to remind our viewers, at MSI last year, BLG beat T1, but at Worlds, T1 ran through the entire LPL bracket to win their World Championship. Thank you!
Nice. Saw you fast walking over here.
I ran because I didn't want to miss this matchup. I guess you can understand.
Yeah, I wanted to talk about the history between those two teams, as you had mentioned, because at MSI just last year, it was BLG that was able to take them 3-1, and it was in large part with how monstrous Elk was. He felt like he was unkillable on his Zeri pick.
He did hyper carries, really ruled the day last year at MSI. That was the comfort zone for Elk.
Karena orang bohong juga pasti akan terbuka.
T1 is almost like single-handedly controlled the narrative that the LCK would be stronger than the LPL, because without them, this MSI performance, where you had two LPL teams in the final, and also how well they were doing at Worlds up until the point of T1's run, was extraordinary.
I like it. You're saying they're kind of like the key to both sides of the coin for the LPL success.
Pretty much. Without T1, the LPL would be ruling the world.
Oh my god. It's interesting because at that time, the key difference was the fact that your guy was playing, he was playing like Nautilus and these supported picks, but he had like great games. Now the change in the offseason, adding in Knight, gives this team an insane ceiling. And then that's the kind of payoff that they were looking for. As you mentioned, them winning the LPL championship was in part due to that. And now going up against T1, you expect them to win based off of the pieces that they added here.
That is the hope, of course, but this is so interesting. We just saw G2 going out against PSG. Those are the two teams that these two teams, all the way to 5 games, they really had to dig deep, both for BLG and for T1. So I'd love to know what we learned from either of those teams because of all the tape we have.
I mean, mine was really curious because I had a lot of question marks from Faker in the series against G2. Cavs has been doing that to everyone this tournament, so you never know if that's going to carry on tonight. But I don't think T1 can win this tournament with Faker playing like he did in that G2 series. So he did step up at the end. Game 4 and 5, he had incredible plays. So that's
ayam apa itu dulu, Rap? Telur, Rap. Kata gue sih ayam dulu.
For me, when it comes to BLG, it's the mental force.
Kalau telur dulu siapa yang netasin anjir? Kalau ada yang ngecoba telur apa netas?
In the way that they did it, and then the next game where else they were on kilter, like those type of things you cannot have when you're playing against some of the best teams. Going full 5 games versus PSG is something you wouldn't want. And hearing from Bin after, like in an interview after that series, saying that we just disrespected them. Cannot do that versus T1. I think they'll be on their A game. We'll have better games from them. This is going to be exciting.
This could be one of the best series of MSI so far, and we've been a little bit spoiled already. So that's a tall order. Let's see what the fans at home think in our MasterCard fan prediction of the day. I'm hoping this one is really, really close, as that is also the way we see the matchup. But it isn't.
Oh my God!
T1 just has too many fans.
Yeah, it's disgusting. Guys, you guys
That's
are
a little Delulu, no?
This is not,
Or maybe it isn't.
It's a lot Delulu.
There's a lot of T1 fans out here too, as you can see. So
yeah, this is perfect for the fans.
Yeah, not to say that I'm also not predicting T1 to win, just not in an 80-20 fashion. So what is so exciting to me about this game is just how willing both of these teams are willing to fight over the most insignificant things. And how good they are at it.
Yeah.
That's what's amazing, because like when I watch T1, and this is, I'll try and keep this short, they make me question what the best version of League of Legends can look like, because their drafts seem to lack cohesion, they fight over random things, but they're the freaking world champions, so isn't that the best? It's because they are so good at pressing their buttons and fighting and laning that they almost make up for these other things. Or do I just have the wrong understanding of the other things?
Maybe they'll show us that today, but you touched on the Faker game 4 Game 5 specifically. Of course, the Ahri, and on the other side, Fortnite, that is also something he really, really wants to be showcasing. And it's kind of interesting that this is such a good matchup in the mid lane, but also even better one when you think about their proficiency on Ahri specifically.
Yeah, they're just insane playmakers for their team.
And
Emily highlighted it last time, just the win streak that Knight has on his Ahri. Do not give them this champ. This is clearly their best champ, and when they have games where they're behind, they will be their key back into it. So we already saw that. You already mentioned the game 5 that Faker had versus G2. That was his way of getting his team that clutch win. Knight will have his. So like, that's the one pick you don't want on the table. Unless if you're a fan. If you're a fan, hell yeah.
You do.
The 27 wins in a row, every time I see it, it looks like a typo to me. It just, I can't believe it. 27 professional wins in a row on the same champion.
Doesn't make sense.
Unbelievable.
Let's hear your predictions. It's going to be close, hopefully. Let's see.
Yeah, I'm going 3-1 for T1. How about you, Raz?
Ooh, 3-2 for BLG. I think they just got stronger, and that last series, people are putting way too much energy into it.
I'm going 3-2 T1.
Okay.
So, too much energy in the fact that BLG PSG was close?
Yeah. I think people are just taking away a lot of conclusions. When we had a lot of, for instance, the T1 series was incredibly close, and I think we will just see a stronger BLG. That was their first time on stage going in an MSI, so they're still the best team for me.
I know that Jat loves like transitive properties in terms of like G2 just played PSG who took BLG to 5 games, and G2 took T1 to 5 games. So whatever you want to take from that, you can. I won't though. We're heading into game. This should be an absolute marquee matchup in the winner bracket at MSI. I hope it delivers. I'm sure it will, and it definitely will with those casters that we have standing on the other side. T1 versus BLG.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the cast desk for T1 versus BLG. The first seed from the LPL versus the second from the LCK. But gentlemen, before we dive into this draft, I want to talk about some transitive properties, right? Because 5 games, both of these teams just came off, but G2 just slaughtered PSG in 3. So T1 probably the clear favorites, am I right?
Well, G2 also pushed JNG to 5 games and beat T1, and then so it's like, where do we land in the whole scheme of things is kind of a bit up in the air. You
where do
really
we
want to talk about it?
Yeah, where do we land in this draft? Because everything is up for the AD carries, and these bottom lanes are the best bottom lanes that we have seen in a long time. The Senna gets through for T1. Guma gets Senna. This is insane.
About the lack of Senna priority.
Part of the reason why Senna is so insane for T1 is because of this, because of Carria's champions that he gets to play with. The fed Tom Kench down here, the farming Kench. We're starting game number 1 of T1 versus BLG, which is absolute draft Armageddon here.
I actually kind of love it, though, from BLG. This is the one game where I think you're allowed to throw a bit of a wrench in, do a little bit of experimenting, see whether you can beat the center. Because after that, I think they have to just keep banning it, because this should be too hard.
It's also the lack of Lucianami that's surprising to me, because I thought that would be the higher priority here for BLG, but they really want to get this Renata. It feels like for On has been a very, very strong pick for him. He's got a 71% win rate over the course of spring, but I do think this is where you're going to see if T1 are just able to manhandle off the back of what is one of the strongest picks for Gumayushi carrying that bottom lane.
Oh, I was actually really liking the Corki, something that we saw in the Gen G series just recently. The Callista Corki has been a really good bridge, and Faker's going to say, yeah, kind of like that idea as well. I'm just going to pick that one up myself.
So funny how LPL Corki has turned from meme into machine at MSI. Faker gonna have the Corki this time around. I'm already like, there's already a lot of really good scaling and long range damage on T1. As we turn our sights towards the jungle here, both of these mid laners looking to ban away their opponent's AD junglers. Jarvan always kind of scary there, so they don't want the full combo. Xin Zhao, of course, going to be a priority as well.
I think K'Sante as well. I think both of these top laners have set the rate so far, most play champion in the tournament. We've heard a bit of speak about good old K'Sante so far, and I think it might deserve a bit of a look here.
But that's the thing, if you pick K'Sante as main, you're just opening up for a TF or something along those lines. So it looks like at least the moment, BLG...
Lu main apa lagi coba Bar? Itu apaan Bar?
I wouldn't be surprised to see the Vayne taking away here as well with BLG setting up for the potential K'Sante here.
We do know that something Jose really enjoyed as well. Was used in the playoffs quite a bit. Still about
Lu gabut ya Bar?
playing it. Certainly something that he does love to play. But not going to be seeing it this time around. And in fact, sees a lot more bans than I would expect.
Definitely such a good team fighting jungler, wanting to take out that AoE damage for later. Let's see, are BLG also really worried about the Vayne from Zeus, or are they going to cover here? Because K'Sante, I mean, I'm a big fan of the poppy counter like K'Sante, but it doesn't seem like it's been super high priority for a lot of other teams.
I think the poppy could just be a good lock-in just here. Then you can save that counter pick like you were talking about, Dacta, but instead, it is the priority pick on the K'Sante, and at the moment in this tournament, it means win for these top laners, so you may as well take it.
So there's two things that says what K'Sante. Poppy and Camille. Big could play either of them.
What about Gwen?
Yeah, he definitely could play Gwen. He could be Gwen, but maybe someone who is also I love Camille. So there's definitely a little bit more of an icon towards the Camille. So I wouldn't be surprised to see that locked in here if he so choosing. Could also just be the Vayne, which we did see him bring out before, but Sejuani going to be taking... I actually like the Sejuani because I think other options Maokai, which isn't really great for the position that you're in, but there it is. The Vayne going to be taken for Vayne.
I hate the Sejuani so much.
Fine top
Everyone
lane
is ranked.
anjing.
Everyone is... Where's your permafrost
Boy, sih
coming
gak main
from?
ini.
It's just not it.
Yourself.
It's also, if T1 lane swap, you're kind of in a bit of a pickle here as BLG, because we've already seen Bin, when he ends up in this lane swap scenario against PSG Talon, it did not look good for the Vayne. They didn't really know what to do with them. And if you're in a K'Sante, you're going to be fine. Your Senna and Tam Kench, you're going to be fine to start doing what they want as well, even unlocking Gumayushi early to start playing around the map. So this may not be standard lanes for T1.
Yeah, it's interesting how the Vayne and lane swaps, everybody has started doing the, 2v1 mid basically, where you try and zone off the enemy mid laner. I guess, trying to keep Corki back a little bit would do that, but then you also soak experience from your mid laner and delay Talia's level 6, which is a little bit rough. So we'll see if they end up going for it.
Yeah, we've seen Gen G be somewhat successful with the Vayne lane swaps, but T1 haven't really been swapping very much at all so far this tournament. They do generally just really like standard lanes, but I think that if they're ever going to swap, it is in this game. This is the one where you want to avoid it as much as possible, and we'll see whether they do have that string to their bow in this matchup, because I think they might need it, especially being able to have that extra flexibility. But gentlemen, it is time to get into game number 1.
Padahal ya, ini turnamennya tuh di Cina loh. Tapi BLG dari Cina malah pada ketiwan anjing. Ketiwau.
I'm curious to see how T1 are going to play this.
Den mana Den?
It'll engage on their side. Very much kind of playing to absorb the initial pressure coming through from BLG. So if BLG take it slow and don't overextend. There is a chance that maybe they can crawl out, but as you already alluded to, the amount of range that you have here with the Senna and the Corki, being able to poke out BLG, that's really where BLG have to find some way to dissuade it.
I think it's about the Corki, because if you don't have any engage, it's fine, because you've got all of the range, and you just don't want to engage. You just want to throw rockets as many times as you can. But here we are, onto the Rift, for game number 1 of this best of 5. Last time these two teams met, it was T1, but earlier that year, it was BLG. We'll see whether it's going to be a switcheroo, or whether it's going to be success once again for T1.
Yeah, it's been so fun following the stories of these two titans in International League of Legends. And with BLG getting Knight on the team here as well, you know, they pick up one of the defending MSI champions from last year. Both of them were able to defeat T1 at that tournament, of course, Knight when he was on JDG, as well as every single one of these other players from BLG. But of course, T1, they ran the entire LPL side of Worlds brackets to become champions themselves. So now we're in part 3 and see if the LPL can get their revenge at MSI, which has historically been their tournament.
Lane
The
swap.
to
T1 lane swap.
A lot of people were heartbroken to see that JDG roster split up. We're really hoping we get another round this year, but not to be. And now it's BLG picking up Knight, saying, hang on a second, we can finally get one over JDG, and now they are the top dogs, and now invading on towards Owner as well, really trying to put the hurt on him and make him uncomfortable in this lane swap.
Yep, you can see, like you mentioned, lane swap has actually come through. Bin doing that Vayne thing where you come around and you try and bully out the enemy mid laner, but they've also got the bottom lane involved.
Yeah, and both junglers are taking away camps from the lane swap side of the opponents. It's BLG harassing even more here.
Yeah, Bin is ghosting in. He just wants to get Ona out of here. Tumbling forward, Ona taking a fair bit of damage as he does make it back to his inner turret, but he's been removed from that side of the map.
It's a huge win because of it. The fact you get on right of that side means that you've got more camps there for Shun, who's managed to take out all 3 on the opposite side of the map. So now having been there, it means that they can start to get more experience for Shun. They can spend longer on this bottom side. Zeus is trying to sneak into lane here, but I think this is going to be a dive as soon as he shows his face on that bottom end.
It's getting a little bit worrisome. T1 do manage to at least get that free lane towards top side.
I think next thing we should have Sejuani cross over and finish up these other 2 camps here because of the hard work that Bin and On put in, chasing Owner out of their blue quadrant of the jungle. And he's heading over to the bottom side now. Looks like they're heading up. Senna here waiting, and they want to pull a trap themselves.
Yeah, Carrier has teleported in here as Zeus and Gumayushi coming on down to 3v3 for now, but already Carrier's taking so much damage. Eats the Grey Health is on, taken down to 200. And T1 have at least wrestled some control and do get to take this experience.
They will get the experience, and the problem is, as on the top side, BLG bet to lose this massive wave. No TP on Bin means that he won't be able to collect that. So you are getting Shun with some experience advantage, being able to get the camps at least here, as he will be able to smite this one away. But you're getting Vayne very far behind versus Zeus, who's already hit that level 2 spot.
Meanwhile, Owner here is at least going to be able to pick up his Gromp, so the only thing really stolen away from their side was the blue buff. Not too bad for him. He can just go up to Raptors and get topside Scuttle Crab probably.
Yep. Faker doing the walk strategy to avoid the seismic shove, something that we've spoken about a lot in the LCK.
It's a good, it's good ability.
It's pretty good.
And BLG are going to drop this top wave at the moment, though. You saw that Elk had started to move up towards that top half of the map, but instead they're trying to force these 2v2 lanes, so immediately going to move Elkanon back down towards this bottom side. But we'll need Shun to come up here, because the wave in a bit of an awkward spot for them, so I think they'll need Shun to help them get control there to force the bounce back.
Actually kind of working out well. If you have a look at the top of your screen, T1 in about a 100 gold advantage or something like that, but did with that big wave being missed by the corpse of the cannon flew up into the air.
You know, as soon as
Faker gonna get pulled back, and that is first blood going to Knight, and it's a solo kill.
The golden left hand coming up clutch for BLG. There was so much movement on the map, we forgot about the mid lane, and just like that, Knight able to pick up one against the Demon King.
Huge mistake from Faker here. Faker with no flash, no teleport, and Knight the early lead.
Valkyrieing over some rocks. It's not what you want to be doing. Faker immediately teleports back to the base, so at least won't miss out on any CS, but this is a great start for BLG.
It's interesting because of the desync on the camps there, Owner actually steals away Gromp, and so Shun is coming out to top side of the map, but not going to be a lot there for him. So wastes a little bit of time before he realizes and is going to correct course down to the bottom half of the map.
We are on the mirror side of the wall.
I mean, Cap solo kills him twice. Now having this solo kill by Knight as well. It feels like Faker's laning phase has just not really been up to par from what we've seen thus far at MSI. And flying straight over the rocks into the flick back. It's a great pickup from Knight there.
To me, the worst part is the flash afterwards, you know? I mean, it was really good placement by Knight, pushing Faker into that kind of corner, but then to also use your flash and Knight gets the auto off and gets the kill there, that is insane advantage.
Well, BLG now pushing forward here towards the bottom side. Guma does slink down into the mist, but Shun's making his way in. Arctic Assault is going to find the center, and there's the Weaver's Wall as well. They take down Gumayushi, and there's the flick on the carrier as well, but Owner is there with the stab. Finally, they take down the Tom Kench, and a 2-for-1. BLG will take it.
BLG added Knight to the roster, and he is destroying T1 here. The roam down to the bottom side. They get even more. The cannon dies to the tower. Elk is zoning them off. BLG came to play here at MSI.
The rumors of BLG's death have been greatly exaggerated. BLG looking great here against T1. You can already see the movement here. Elk and On go hyper aggressive, knowing that Knight has already got the movement mid. The mistake from On was using the bailout already, but back to live.
Yeah, in the meantime, that is going to be the handshake on top of the rocks. There is the seismic shove, and Faker is just going to try and deal with the wave. He knew that he was dead.
There's a reason this was one of the most hyped up roster moves of all time here. Knight being added to the roster, and it just looks like BLG are going to slaughter them in game number 1.
At least in the early game. Currently a 1,000 gold advantage. And T1, I mean, we don't like using the scaling word necessarily, and T1 are not a team that generally draft for scaling, but they do have a lot of it in this particular game. So if you are a T1 fan, maybe not completely over yet, especially if Zeus is going to have a good time here towards the top side, going all out, does get condemned into the alcove. So Bin should be able to create enough distance to avoid getting solo killed.
Oh, udah
You
ngambil
can see
buff
that
gua.
Bin wanted to go back for the cannon, but gonna have to give that one up instead. Gonna join for the Void Grubs to get that, as T1 will trade for the Dragon on the bottom side. So T1 at least getting a nice Hextech Dragon for themselves, but I think the big factor is going to be Knight getting his early lead, being able to control that mid lane, starting to look for more roams as this Weaver's Wall comes up, and Faker trying to beat him to the punch here, at least leaning towards his bottom side, but I don't really think he can dive or do anything on here for the bot side.
Yeah, T1 are notoriously hard to finish games against, so definitely a very good point to bring up, Atlas, especially when you do have Guma on the Senna and Faker continuously scaling on Corki.
Well, he might be dead yet again. There's the flash handshake to come out from On as Guma. He's trying to get out of there, but I don't know whether it's going to work out. As Elk is just dashing behind him, finds the pierce, and he just explodes. Carrier, he has to flash to get On out of there, but this 2v2 is all BLG.
This is the best bot lane in the LPL, and they are showing up against Gumayushi and Carrier. You got a little taste from Jackie Lovamako, but BLG are the real champions of the LPL.
Think about what this can do for the entire series draft as well. BLG, they're not afraid of the Senna. The Senna that is so frequently banned against T1, and people are so scared of giving to them. If you let them have it in the opening game, and then are able to crush it. Look at On, flashes in for the handshake here, says you're not going to get away, you're against the wall, and Elk will chase you down. He flashes away from the Tom Kench knock-up. He knows he's got enough spears for the Ren.
Ya, gitu deh, gue deh. Nonton turnamen mah ngantuk emang. Pengantar tidur nomor 1 adalah
the fact that T1 have
turnamen.
this comeback potential, they are so clutch, but look
Ini
at the
T1, bro.
playmaking that they really have on their side. It's not a huge amount. This is a squad that wanted to play from an easy position where they're ahead, to look for poke, to try and set up on objectives early, but how well BLG are doing, it's going to become very, very difficult for T1 to have any sort of control.
Yeah, and this is going to be the big test for T1, because as Kobe
Iwan
was saying,
kalah baru ini.
a team that is difficult to close games
Iwan
against.
kalah, biar
But
ini
right
kan
now,
gimana sih?
BLG have started off exactly
biasa
the
T1
way
mah,
they
barely
need
ini.
to. Faker clears
Nggak
out that
kaget.
minion wave, but he'll have to go back home, teleport at the ready. Just have to see what these first few skirmishes are going to look like, because if BLG put the screws in, if this gold lead only extends as we go further on, it's going to be so difficult for T1 to make any sort of moves. And like what you were saying, as far as what the draft means moving further forward in the series, could be a disaster for T1.
You're looking at some of the cards that T1 have pulled out when they are behind in games. It's very early on to talk about them, but the classic Baron Rush.
Faker. Yeah, well, Faker's just going to face check, put in prison here, and the wall is set up behind him. There's the Flash Valkyrie, using him in the right order this time around, but he's still dead. The rocks are thrown at him, and there goes the Corki for the third time.
Oh, Knight is just demolishing the GOAT in mid lane right now. Another rock, another death for Faker. Mid lane is blown wide open, and that means he can push on turret plates while bottom keeps up the pressure with no fear of a collapse. They even call over Shun here for the extra vision. Look at this blue quadrant of T1's jungle. It is lit up. There is no way that T1 can really supply resources to bail out Guma and Keria.
And Knight really has been the kingmaker for so many teams in the LPL. Starts off on top esports, gets their first ever championship for themselves, then moves over to JDG, manages to flip the script and get another one, but now in boss.
In goes Keria, looks for an opportunity here on to Elk. The bailout should be there, but the Devour is as well. Elk, he is going to get taken down, not going to be able to trade back. Keria doesn't even need to eat the Grey Health, and T1 are on the board in the bottom lane.
Okay, they got the resources down bottom to bail them out, but top side.
Bit of a trade here is now the All-Out just going to pull in the special delivery Piggy, and Zeus going to be able to survive.
Huge move there as owner.
In the meantime, there's a little bit more that happened towards the bottom side of the map, but once again, Faker in trouble. Knight taking a little bit back with that phosphorus bomb, but I think that he's absolutely fine with how this mid lane is going. Already a couple of plates being removed.
Gotta compliment owner though. His jungle is lit up with all these wards, so he goes down through the lane to bottom side, and Keria is able to help him, get the play there with the lane gank. That was so necessary for T1 because BLG still going to take away the rest of the Void Grubs, and that will be 6 Grubs that will help them out. But here it is. Owner with the lane gank to avoid the vision. Keria with his famous Tom Kench starts it out, and they actually get a kill down here onto Elk.
Brilliant knock-up coming through from Keria to start that one out, and there's just nothing you can do as BLG, and the follow-up then from owner as well, knowing that he'd be able to get on 2. That's 2 kills now with the Kraken Slayer completed for owner. He's in a great spot, and if he can start to play around bot side once more here, maybe they can go again.
Well, it's going to be the turret going down. That is going to be first brick going over to BLG. Bit of extra money in the coffers, definitely good thing. 2.2k now that score. Like you were saying, owner is here. But on, still looking for some opportunities. Not going to get snared up by the center here as we're just trading back vision as much as possible. Knight and Elk with the most gold in the game, as we saw just there, is now Faker with the package at the ready, avoids everything, or everything misses. Package gonna get delivered as the Drake now being considered by T1. Snare connects onto Shun, but he is still in this fight, at least for the moment. Faker getting a lot of damages. There is a huge burrow right on top of BLG and T1. I think we may have started counting him out too early as owner hopping around.
Oh, anjir.
That is his version of a Callista, and they'll take a Drake.
The unseen catfish is the deadliest. Keria from the Dragon Pit, and the Abyssal Voyage sends BLG packing. That is going to be T1 bouncing back. They're going to pick up the Dragon afterwards, and they...
Ini game changernya apa tuh namanya? Siapa tuh namanya? Yang batu-batu itu Talia ya? Game changernya Talia tuh bisa buat lingkarannya hilang lagi gitu loh. Kalau dulu kan nunggu sampai hilang kan batu-batunya.
Iya, sekarang enggak. Terus satu lagi hilang dia.
Iya, itu yang ngebuat lumayan kepake dia. Dulu kan yang bikin gak bisa dipakai tuh itunya tuh.
It's always so cool to watch how T1 will protect their members, and even if someone is making mistakes, like Faker was in the early game, he still stands up in that dragon fight. He avoids the Sejuani ult, then has a big package to start up the fight, and the rest of Team 1 pick up the slack. Keria really doing a lot of work for this team.
This might be a bridge too far here for Zeus, who is going to have to try and get something done to get out of here. Has ghosted, has made it underneath the turret, but there's the flash forward. He is going to get stunned to the wall with the Condemn, and there's the kill going over to On. 4 members going to be enough to deal with the Cassante here, and they should also be able to grab a second turret for themselves.
Just a question of how far do they want to keep going. Bin going to reset to try and move on down to the bot side, but Faker should be able to respond with the turret himself. So T1 at least only losing out on what is just a kill. But still, BLG stepping up on this top side. They have the Rift Herald in tow, but I think they want to try and keep that for mid and a potential Dragon in 3 minutes time.
And Owner's the only one here picking up these.
Oh dear, there's a Glacial Prison. And yep, he's normally a pretty slippery champion, but it's not going to work out there. Tries to Heartbreaker, but he's the only one getting heartbroken here. And T1 loses their jungler.
That was a rough one there for T1. Owner was the one with the bounty on his head. Owner was the one getting a lot of these kills and soaking up the farm there. BLG, they lie in wait in the fog of war. They strike again, and they want to continue this snowball. Now, with all the extra vision that they left up on this top side becomes very scary for T1 to play. Faker, of course, he is at least Corki, has his W, has his flash available, but that tower being down and all the extra vision for BLG does allow them some really strong side lane options here. They're the ones with the Vayne that they could put in the side lane. They're the ones with the Taliyah ultimate that is ready to make the cross map play.
The Rift Herald, though, I don't think was supposed to go down this soon. They don't really have their lanes in any sort of shape, and you can see oh no, T1 going to be able to move across, and the charge is now gone, but Terror may just fall regardless.
Yeah, it's just gone anyway. Might get another charge, but it looks like T1 should be able to stop Shelly from getting anything done. Another Abyssal Dive just to make sure that she is bouncing around.
New Herald is best change to the game that they've added in a long time.
The ability to mess it up.
Yeah,
That's what we need.
We have some people that need their licenses revoked in the LCK. As in fact, maybe one of them in this game as well, as another Abyssal Dive does come on down from Carrier, but he's kind of trolled a little bit by the Blast Cone.
It was a nice attempt, trying to get on, knocked back by the Blast Cone, maybe get him over the wall and you can finish him off, but not quite. And now BLG setting up once more, T1 spotting them. BLG just trying to get control over this bot side because they know they have a stronger 1-3-1. If they can continue to keep this pressure for Bin, he can start to chip away at these turrets on bottom side.
Yeah, now we need to calm down a little bit. BLG need to extend the open map play here. Make use of your split push, make use of your Taliyah ultimate here, looking for these picks, keep the pressure up on T1. Because as Alice brought up, this is such a hard team to pin down, and they can rely on Faker and Guma later on into the game as the stacks accrue here for the Senna, as the Corki starts to accrue items.
And as G2 learned as well, you got to be very careful about where T1 plays their vision, because they will always try and find some ward in behind you, some way to get Faker with a package in behind the back line, something to bring them back into this game. So BLG gonna have to be clinical in how they close this one out.
And I'm looking specifically at Knight here. He has been so good this game. His Seraphs has evolved already.
Oh, Glacial Prison going to be avoided there by Kara, utilizing the warp. That time has to flash, though. As Owner dashes forward, Shun just absorbing as much as he can. All 5 members of T1 grouped up, though, ready to get this siege going on. 35 seconds on the Drake is probably why we're seeing a bit of an ARAM.
They really want to prevent Faker from resetting. They'll have the package in base and that teleport to come out, so BLG trying to play aggressive on the wave.
Nice with the big shot. It's going to find Gumayushi. He's just going to have to get devoured. A huge resource now just taken away from T1.
To be Dragon at least there. I mean, that's so much health off of Guma, and not having the Tom Catch flash or ultimate for Carrier here. I think BLG have won themselves a stop to the Dragon stacking from T1. Knight again comes up huge, but the package teleport from Faker is used to the top side of the map, so they're going to trade an objective at least.
Q not going to find the mark there, neither does the handshake though, as Zeus does get under his inner turret. Faker heads towards that top side like you were talking about, and so just trying to get as much money as possible. And I think T1 are probably pretty happy that they managed to get the first 2 Drakes this game, because this is a Corki composition. One, getting the first Drake, generally hard. You don't have the package available for that one. The second one, far more possible, something that they were able to do by winning a team fight. And this one, don't necessarily need to get it. They're happy for the game to extend.
This is going to get more difficult for T1 though. The problem is Knight very far ahead of Faker in the side lane. Going to be tough for him to really try and counteract the push the Knight has. And now with Bin being able to pick up a sizable gold lead, 1.5k for himself, he's going to be able to push in on bot side relatively easily and give a lot of control for BLG to push mid into a potential play on top. And once you start to lose control of topside jungle, Baron becomes available for BLG. So I think a lot of T1 is going to be trying to pick off members of BLG as they enter into their topside jungle and see if they can find BLG T6, because BLG haven't been the best side lane team in the LPL.
See what they can get done here as Shun back into his jungle, just trying to get a bit of money here. And T1 at least allowed back towards the mid lane. They need to start trying to break open this outer turret in mid though, because this map is getting smaller and smaller for T1. As Knight taking a little bit of poke damage here. That big one would have really hurt, so thankfully he's able to avoid it. T1 trying to pressure forward.
They're going for it. The teleport play here with the Taliyah. Bin is close to his Trinity Force as well. Bin's got a lot of money. If they can kill Zeus.
Yeah, Zeus gonna have to try and find that all-out angle. Let's see whether he can get out of this one. Just dashes. All right, that's how you do it. You just press ghost and run. Fine.
Yeah, it turns out if you're really quick, it helps in trying to get away from a Taliyah who has no setup. So nicely done there by Zeus to escape, and it's just a teleport burnt by BLG.
I already can see the chat, you know, everybody complaining about Cassante. People have been complaining about Ghost for a while as well, so the combination of the two allowing Zeus.
It's really funny that people complain about Ghost and not Flash, which is
we've had like so many years of complaining about Flash. This is not in vogue anymore, dude. I don't think you're allowed to.
Because Flash is a given now. People are like, if you take away my Flash, don't you dare touch my Flash. That's a given. Everybody will have that one.
When are we going to get to the point where we just give Flash to everyone and you can choose two other summoner spells?
It's actually now, you actually cannot choose to not select Flash. I don't know if you've tried.
Oh, well. Zeus is straight up cheating, as we can see.
Surrender musuhnya, bro.
But he is Cassante, so I guess half of his kit is Flash. So it's fine. All right, T1 still without any control of this Baron area. Some wards that have been turned off, and now, speaking of getting turned off, Ona is out of there. Things went black and white for him, unfortunately, and that is going to be Knight collecting another one. They also might augment this with a purple buff, as T1 now trying to get in there, trying to stop this from happening. This could be disaster. Could really break open the game. BLG down to 50% health on this Baron. The Weavers all comes through as Zeus. He wants to try and get over that. Now Faker off to the side on a bit of a flank angle. Decent amount of damage can be done here, and that is going to be the Baron secured by BLG. Just beautifully played. Kill the jungler, take the purple worm, and now start closing out this game.
Nice patience there from BLG, just waiting until you make that one misstep from Owner, doesn't end up sweeping the brush, and immediately they get the Baron, and now this 1-3-1 only becomes even more difficult to deal with as T1.
Yep, some wards turned off, but not the critical ones. That one is going to mean death. On flashes to follow the seismic shove with his handshake, so there is 0 time for Owner. He goes down, and instantly BLG, this team is so good, they're so quick, and their end game here in playing out the side lanes is so easy to execute. Ben, we mentioned the lead that he has on this Vayne. The Trinity Force is complete. He is a monster. They can continue to put that pressure on the side lanes, close in on your jungle, take away any space that T1 have to get any sort of jungle camps for themselves. And now you have to worry too, is there a ward in every single brush? Am I instantly going to get jumped on here? As BLG, they keep up the pressure. They pin T1 on their own side of the map.
Yep, 33 seconds until the second Infernal Drake of the game, as well as wards getting thrown down here. Control Ward at least some vision in this little pathway between top and mid lane. The Dragon's certainly something that BLG can just head back to and take for free, but T1 trying to hold on to all of their inner turrets here. This one is going to go down. BLG with good pressure in multiple lanes. Now Bin not going to push any further forward. This is a little bit of a dangerous spot as he does get interrupted. Zeus getting that wrap around. Final hour does come on through. As now just looking to turn it onto Faker. Is this going to be the 1v2 as the all-out does come through? There's the pullback, and now Bin is so fast. He just kills Faker. Can he get out of the question? The answer is, does he even want to? Gamushi coming around, and I think he will be shut down, but a 1-for-1, you take those.
Everyone at T1 was needed to take down Bin, and he still gets a kill. This guy is a monster. The shadow boxing into hitting hard for the BLG top laner.
Ya Allah, Den. Ini yang tadi, cok.
So many sticks in him. As Ona trying to get himself out of there. Thankfully, Carrier is pretty tanky with the fact that he's the one that's been farming, but this inhibitor not long for the world. And BLG, they grab themselves their second dragon, and I reckon that Red Bull Baron power play feels pretty good.
And this is why BLG were terrifying in the LPL. They get these leads, and they do not let up. Looking for these picks, looking for these plays, and Bin, this was immaculately done. Turns on towards Faker with the invisibility, and even though Zeus brings in one direction, flashing away from the phosphorus bomb, keeps his health up, and makes sure that he
Fortitude
can
lah gua, bodo
finish
amat
off
ini
the
jaga-jaga.
Corki. Nearly turning on to Owner as well, but eventually Gumayushi says enough of this as he shows up to wrangle him into position.
They had to use absolutely everything to take him down there, so T1 just getting stretched a little bit too thin. The Baron buff has worn off. 2.5 minutes until we do get the next round of those, and a 6,000 gold lead here for BLG. But I think it's the map lead that really is the backbreaker for T1. They just cannot get out and start any of these team fights. They can't get BLG into a position where any of this poke means anything.
100%. The map does not get easier to play for T1. The side lanes do not get easier. Even your own jungle has been taken over here. BLG, they return. Knight cuts them off with a bit of a wall.
Well, Carrier actually going aggressive there. Not sure about that one, as now hostile takeover comes on in. Both tanks just doing battle, and Bin puts Carrier in the ground. Zeus not looking as tanky as he has in some of the other games here at MSI. The inner turret is going to be taken down. BLG, just a couple of turrets standing beside the Nexus for them to get rid of. They're going to start with this top lane inhibitor turret as Owner on that flank angle teleport to come in as well. Shun down to 50% as now Zeus thinks he may have found an angle here. The flash forward from Gumayushi doesn't manage to find the snare, and neither does Zeus. The all-out comes on through. Faker delivers a package to the backline and gets rid of Knight. Could this be the team fight they're looking for? Faker, he goes down, but I think they're just too big, and Elk is ripping them apart, rendered down. And I think that's the last gasp for T1 in game one.
The speed up would not be enough for Elk to get the quadra kill, but the BLG bot lane has come alive finally in this game. T1 thought they could fight the 4 versus 5, but they were sadly mistaken.
Ya elah lawan Timo gua
That is 2 inhibitors down. On gets slowed, but Bin has arrived to the party as well. He's got a bottom minion wave to work with, and that tower doesn't stand a chance.
Yep, looks like we're going full tutorial here, gentlemen. Taking down all of these inhibitors before we get to work on the Nexus. T1, I don't think they're going to be able to stop this. Multiple super minions coming in now. And yeah, I think just run away from Bin is going to be the rule until you can get him into another game. This one, I wouldn't try to fight him.
Monstrous stuff this game for BLG to open the series this way. Let's take a look at this team fight again, though, because this was T1's hope. The teleport in from Zeus, they know they've got package timing here for Faker. So Guma tried to flash at Knight. It didn't quite have the range, but then Knight flashes afterwards away from the Q, and Faker hits him with the package. That gets the 1,000 gold shutdown, but the Callista is still hitting. Zeus tries to go in and get the triple knockup, but he was unable to get Elk with that knockup, and Elk's just gonna mow them down. This bottom lane for BLG. They were so confident, they let Guma have the Senna, and they punish it as well. On his Renata, flashing in for handshakes in lane, really bullying them there. And then, of course, the mid lane difference that we saw, Knight over Faker. Obviously a huge factor as Sin's having a little fun in the jungle.
Yep, not really taking too much damage here, but is going to be able to interrupt Zeus on his attempted way out. And now 1 versus 5. I don't think that one's going to be winnable there, Zeus. As BLG, they're teleporting. They're trying to finish this one off right now. Knight heads towards that bottom lane carrier there to try and meet the wave. Knight is so incredibly frightening. 4 versus 5 here. Only 2 turrets remain here for T1 as they're looking to desperately hold on. It feels so hopeless as the hostile takeover is gigantic. There's another handshake from On. He's just so good at this champion. Gumayushi is going to get flattened, and T1 going to get pulled out of their fountain. Carrier, not enough great health to go through here as he will be rendered where he stands. And there goes the Nexus on game 1. BLG up 1-0.
The LPL at MSI, fellas. That is frightening.
Especially when you gave over the picks to T1. And if you think back to MSI 2023, it was the bot lane for BLG and for JDG getting control that really blew open a lot of their series against the LCK. And now we're seeing it again with BLG looking so damn good against the T1 bot lane.
They had some happy games versus PSG.
Yep.
Let's see if they're focused. Let's see if they're locked in for an entire series. Game number 1 was a blasting.
And I do think that it's almost worse than just losing this game 1, because now so much added flexibility, like we were talking about in the very beginning, with leaving that center up and available, I think they're pretty happy to go for that one again. But gentlemen, I think it's time to throw it back to the analyst desk and see what Shox and the gang thinks about that game one.
Well, I am blown away by how BLG started off the series. What a fantastic performance. And in all lanes, really, we gotta say, because you did talk about the bot lane, absolutely. Why not? But also the mid lane from the very start. Also the Vayne top from Bin later on. So, you know, where do you try to fix first?
Let's just say, if you have a ship that's capsizing, you have too many holes. It has to start mid, because that was just what opened this door up. It really started with that 4-minute solo kill, into the fact that he was able to get a roam down mid, and then he goes back mid, then he has to actually, like, then Sejuani's coming in as well to really help out, so it felt like mid was the major problem this game.
It started there, and we will take a look at some of those plays
Yeah.
as well, but I do want to start with our HyperX Reflex replay, the Vayne from Gigabin. I mean, this guy.
And we're showing this because it was cool.
It was fun.
It wasn't necessarily game deciding, but it's for the style points. Like, look at this. Both T1 solo laners going at Bin. Doesn't have Ghost at the very start. Ghost now because it came off cooldown. And just watch, going in and out of invisibility, flashes the Foss Bomb, zips past Owner, and if we cut the video here, it's the greatest outplay of all time.
Yeah.
So, great job by Bin. Cut the video. Shoot. But it was still an amazing play, essentially getting the third solo kill of the game by someone onto Faker, which is, I think, going to be, to Raz's point, what was a worry for T1 against G2 and continues to be an early series
Did
worry
you erase
here
your
against BLG.
board? Because you said
I
Faker
did.
question mark,
well,
right?
it's because he died 3 times, so he just vanished from the series.
So it was more of an explanation. So, like, that was the thing. It basically, Knight was just reminding you why that off-season acquisition happened. He just instantly started with a lead. And really, that was probably the most scary thing about BLG, is that any lane can do it to you. And that's what made that first replay all the better. So then you go into this replay where that first kill happens.
Again, man.
Insane, instantly leading into this bot lane play. And it was just a constant sequence from BLG that T1 couldn't recover from.
And also, like, the fact that they were willing to give Gumayusi Senna, but then Knight is the one who ended up shutting it down. And I think the worst thing for Faker in his deaths, especially the first one, is that he's not just dying, he's dying and using all his stuff.
Yeah.
So it's easier to kill him again. So twice he tried to flash to safety and still died, which is very un-Faker-like.
Yeah, and we were talking before the G2 T1 series specifically about Faker and how his laning phase has been so good on top of kind of the map play, and I think that's exactly the thing that's been lacking in these last 2 best-of-5s for Faker, because the solo kills keep happening, and that is, well, it's a worrying trend. Let me just put it that way.
Yeah, you know what? I agree with the old Jat. Because
it's just the best way to describe it.
It is.
Yeah, I agree. It's just something's not clicking in these early portions of the series, because it was finally able to happen later on in that G2 series. But the fact that in game 1 it is the shocker that you wouldn't expect. And I would say, you know, credit to T1 because they did turn the game back.
Yeah, they did a bit.
So like that dragon fight where Carry was able to get a 2-man knock up, and then, okay, the you know, engine's starting to roll. But then BLG find 2 key picks on side lanes, and then get the pick on Owner that leads in towards Baron. There is so much that happened here, and this is the replay that I was talking about, because at first they're trying to go for Faker's head with the package. He uses it to regroup with his team, and then as the play goes on, just look at Tahm Kench angling for a play.
And it's the coordination that the whole team has, because the instant he flies in, Guma's pre-channeling his Senna ultimate so that it lands during the knockup from the Tahm Kench W. Faker chases on to and ended up finishing out the fight there. And you can see Faker still ended up doing 20,000 damage for the numerous times he was solo killed. So I do think we're still going to have a very competitive series because of how cohesive T1's team fighting is always going to be, regardless of the circumstances.
What do you got here? What are we looking at?
Kata lost.
That is actually a dub. We'll take that win, as much as I love the champion.
We'll take the dub. But it does also mean, right, all these things that mean things for the series. You know, you can't just say that, oh, if we give carry a Tom again, we'll win again. That's not the way these things work. It's just across the board. There's a lot of these little instances where if a Faker needs to stabilize that lane or find a way to with the team together. Gumayushi is always consistent, but he can't really do anything in this situation. The Cassante has a counter. Will you now ban it? I mean, it's had a counter. It just hasn't won that many times.
Yeah.
Are you going to ban that out? You know, a lot of choices to make.
I think if you're T1, Faker's going to be the first one that calls it out and say, look, I don't think there was anything wrong with the draft. I'm just going to play better. He's already meditating just so he can go into the next game with a clean focus in mind. I think that's the proper way. Because that game 1 was tough right in the early game.
Red side.
Yeah, that's some stubbornness right there, I would say. Just because, generally speaking, I'm a blue side enjoyer.
Yeah.
And I'm more of an enjoyer of switching sides when you lose. That's like my favorite thing to do. So
you do it a lot.
Yeah, absolutely. But I mean, if you're looking at the champions on paper, T1's going to be really happy with that draft.
Yeah.
And I do wonder how much of it is going to actually be a salty run back, because there isn't anything that jumps out to me as like, man, they had a really hard time dealing with X.
Yeah.
It was more, I think, T1 might just say, you know what, we just have to play better, and they might run back a lot of the same picks.
I agree with you.
And the only thing, too, if you want to take it away from individuals, is just that, once again, the way they played side lanes was faulty. Like, they got to pick on towards Cassante, and then got to pick on Owner. You cannot be bleeding further like that when you're already in a deficit. That's the only thing that I would look at and say, these are the things we just need to clean up. Next game will be better.
Salty run back, yeah, salty run back.
I'm a big fan of salty
I'm
run
not
back.
a
But
fan,
they can't really because it's on the
but
other
I do
side,
think
right?
it will happen.
I have enough ego where you're just going back to it.
Or kind of salty run back.
Yeah.
Back to the
Oh,
casters.
it's full salt.
Esport is the entertainment of the future.
Nobody takes a title from G2.
I'm doing something I've trained my whole life to do.
Claim their ninth title.
Find something you're good at, become a master at it, and then try to connect it to the esport world.
Red Bull gives you wings.
Nggak apa-apa deh, yang penting top laner bukan dia lagi deh anjing. Orang bego anjing. Itu top lanernya gua bangsat. Timo anjing. Dan dulu dan. Capek gua.
All right, welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. It is time for game number 2. T1 taking on BLG already. The LPL first seed have been able to take the first game. We'll see whether they can take the second as well. As I've only been gifted 3 zeros. So, this has not started the way I wanted it to.
So what do you think? Because Faker was actually the first one back to stage for T1, and he immediately sat down, and it looked like he was in practice tool. So what do you think he was practicing? Dodging.
Pressing flash before Valkyrie, I think, is what he was trying to go for. Already, we are here into the Champ Select powered by Omen and HyperX, and we have Raz's wish might be granted here because the Kalista already locked in. Talia going to be taken away. That's the adaptation. We'll see whether Senna is still going to be locked in here, and it should be.
I think this is a huge adaptation. The teams that have not had super high priority on Talia have all been punished. That you need to slam this champion, especially when the Ahri, Orianna, Azir are banned. So really good adaptation, I think, here already for T1. We'll see what Faker can do on the opposite side and what Knight's answer will be into it.
Yeah, we're going to get the Renata at least first anyway, but I'm curious because, I mean, you're already seeing Ori, Azir, Talia, Ahri taken away. You're kind of going down into the next tier of them. Maybe it'll be something like a Nico that he just decides to go back towards to make sure that he's going to be okay. But I think you do have to take mid lane here. Otherwise, you end up in a position where you just ban away even more of these picks. But LeBlanc has been a very strong pick for Knight for a very long time. And he may just bring this one out here.
Has certainly worked in the past into a Talia, but the pick away on the Cassante. Bin, he hasn't lost on this champion yet. Zeus was handed his first L on it in the last game. We'll see whether it's going to be a blessing or a curse here.
For T1 though, I feel like you could still take a counter pick here for your top lane. Kerry has shown he plays so many things with Senna.
Well, this is the thing, like, because you can't ban Maokai, Tahm Kench, and Ornn, which are all of his Senna champions.
Sejuani as well, just
that's true.
Like,
Poppy would be fine, I'm sure. But instead, the Tahm Kench will be locked away, and we'll see whether Gumayusi Kerry are going to have a better time in exactly the same lane matchup in game number 2.
So probably going to get some jungle bans from T1 to target Shun here, and then BLG protection ban this Cassante. It sounds really weird to say that, protection for Cassante, but you know, are you worried about the range tops yourself? Are you worried about you know, the Camille or the likes of Poppy as well?
I mean, Twisted Fate, Vayne are probably the bans, right?
I'd imagine so. And then I imagine you're going to get the LeBlanc ban to round it out with the Nico. We already kind of highlighted, look, nice, going to struggle when it comes to champion pulls. He's a big, like, Silas player and a Kali player and that kind of stuff, so maybe we end up seeing him go back towards those assassins. But yeah, there's the TF ban. I've no doubt Vayne is going to shortly follow here for BLG.
And then what does it mean? Is it going to be the jungle pickup and then we have, you know, Zeus holding on to that final pick? Or, because the top lane has been exposed already, do we allow Ona to get a good matchup there in the jungle?
Yeah, I really like a Xin Zhao pick for BLG. I feel like would go pretty hard.
Would also go pretty hard for T1 as well, and Ona loves that champion at the moment. Certainly one of his favorites, as that is the Tristana taken away. Saw Caps have pretty good performance on that champion in the last series, and Knight, no stranger to it either. Does pair very well with the Kalista, especially if you're playing the more lethality version. Gives you a bunch more of that consistent damage later into the game. So an understandable ban. Will it be the Bane? Will it be something else? I think a Xin ban could also be a decent one here for BLG. Ball's in their court, though. We'll see what they decide to take away.
I mean, Aurelion Sol is up as well. It's not exactly a nice
tadi
pick.
sebelumnya
because
pakai
I'm
oh
having
iya.
a miserable time
Malah
on
tukeran
it in
anjing
the
pemain Yone
playoffs.
cacat
Said, hey, I picked it because Chovy picked it. But
makan tuh
maybe he's
ngebully
putting the hours,
Yasuo
we'll have to
anjing
see
game sebelumnya ngebully
what
Yasuo
exactly he
gitu
wants to
aja
go for in that mid lane,
tidak
but
bisa
I imagine
ngapa-ngapain
you're gonna get your
dah.
jungler here just to try and make sure you're okay, and you get that first pick here
Tuh,
for
yang
Owner
asah, panas
with
banget
the
anjingnya.
Although, with the Kazante locked in, maybe you just go for the counter pick and hold jungle counter. Because maybe you want to go for something like a Jax if Xin Zhao is taken.
Kind of like the priority pick on the Xin, like you were saying, Cody, it's just something that has been really strong for both Owner and Shun, and trying to get that away from him could be a good idea.
Tapi sumpah itu top Timo-nya sih yang tolol. Untungnya top Timo anjir. Tadi gue kira Yone top lane susah gue.
You know, I feel like that's the flavor. As Akshan, yeah, that was obviously the choice.
Gue langsung aja first item mau anjing biar dapat shield.
I don't really like the Wukong is that Wukong doesn't do a lot before level 6. And we've seen so much early priority be successful. Is he going to pull a Canyon? The Kazakhs? Now, this in solo queue is amazing.
Kalau tadi tukeran Timo sama Yone-nya
amazing. It's just that how you can
bisa menang
integrate it
mereka.
into competitive and actually play it with
Karena
your team.
Yasuo susah lawan
Because Kazakhs
Timo,
absolutely
dan gue susah lawan Yone banyak dash-nya.
Versus Xin, and it makes it really hard for Xin like mid game than walking into face check rush. Wukong is definitely more the scaling, more the team fight here. So BLG this time around are indexing. This is a way slower comp for them. Obviously, they have the Corki and the Wukong, but they still started it off with bot lane prio. So they can still start the game by playing through bottom lane, through Elkanon again, just like they always classically do. Elkanon, so good at building for dives, so good at working on timings with Shun towards bottom side of the map. It's just that Wukong into Xin Zhao, a little bit more dicey.
That's what I was going to say. I think the fact that you don't really have a lot to bring to the table as the Wukong until post 6 means that Owner, if he does play around this bottom side and carry it, continues to get these incredible abyssal dives, it is going to be tough for Elkanon to really push that advantage. So I wouldn't be surprised the Owner starting on that top side of the map, trying to path down to help out Gumayushi and carry in the early stages and try and beat this Wukong's punch.
I do feel like Elkanon really have switched on though for this series. I think that there were some gaps that we spotted in their matchup against PSG, but that is looking to have disappeared in this series.
It was funny because I feel like even the games that BLG lost, like they were so on that they were almost too good and too far ahead. They were crushing too hard, and then they threw some leads.
It just wasn't the practice they were looking for. You have to make sure that you get your reps in before you go to the next matchup. So 5 games were necessary. Now it is time to jump onto the Rift for game number 2. BLG, a lot of comfort here. The Corki and Kalista, something we've seen work in tandem very, very effectively. Kalista for the early game, the Corki for late. And T1, I'm a little bit worried. If there's anything that I'm worried about, it's the lack of damage. I do love that they picked the Zac for that added engage. You see a Corki, you want to engage onto him as much as you can. Getting that engage range is important, but not a massive amount of damage from the squad until the center gets online.
Yeah, this T1 comp really does critically rely on some good play from Faker. Faker had a rough game number 1. We do know, though, he is one of the players that you can invest in. The mentality and being able to bounce back in a lot of these situations and then turn it around and have a good game. I mean, they basically have just swapped their matchup here. So Faker this time around with his hands on the Taliyah. See how many plays he can create.
And I do like the addition of the Zac in the top lane as well. One of the things we pointed at was a lack of engage for T1. So you had to TP Zeus in behind on a Kazante to try and make a play. There had to be some creativity to their action. This time around, though, you just get to send the big old blob in. Just let him do what he does best, is just bounce all over people. And yes, you've got Renate who can do some work against that kind of engage, but still, it gives you that moment as T1 to actually set up these fights in your favor.
And saving the Zac for counterpick is actually really big as well, because it meant that none of those Zac answers come out of the jungle, because it's often the jungle that is the one that is having to block, you know, Arctic Assault to come out, you know, pillars being put in front, if we remember when Trundle existed. You know, there are a lot of these options that you can have, and of course, the Wukong doesn't have as many of those.
Yeah. Little tip from Meteos, you know, one of the original Zac aficionados. But, you know, he's obviously been in a lot of those situations, and he really recommended, if you're playing Zac into one of those blocker jungles that's going to knock you out of your slingshot, try and start the team fight with the Q instead, and see if you can get, you know, one of those slapped together, slappy hand
stretch
plays.
Armstrong.
Instead. Don't always rely so heavily on the E.
See whether that is something they decide to do. Having a look at this bottom lane to your right there, as you can see. A little bit of Biffo going down, but not too much. As Knight already taking a little bit of a beating here in the counter matchup. I love that. When a player just like has that level of confidence to take the other side of the matchup, face up as well as handshake. Here towards the bottom side, Carrier not as tanky as he was towards the end of the last game, and the Senatom Kench not having as much early game presence as a Callista Renato. Who would have thought?
Yep, getting their push in, and their jungler also pathing down towards their side. Of course, you get that super common ward on the Raptors that Shun has been able to walk around. Most junglers have gotten into the habit of avoiding that ward and going straight for the red. He's done that as well.
Zayas gonna have to pick up some blobs here. Just gets so much health back per blob. I know we've been watching Zach for a really long time. Still bothers me.
Yeah, the blobs and the grass peels, and there's so much sustain on that champion. Obviously emerging as one of these really high prio tanks that can transition into the later stage of the game, and alarmingly large burst damage for the backside as well.
I'm just glad we got rid of Rek'Sai, because that was the biggest problem I had.
Yes, that's true. That is very true. Very glad that we don't see her in this top lane over and over again. Has been a real rough one, but been able to clear up this wave very nicely. Does find himself in a 2 CS advantage as these waves do meet. Ona coming up towards his top side to see whether he can affect anything, as all of the camps are now down.
Shun wants to go check on this Scuttle Crab here. He does not have mid priority, and top side is about 50-50 right now.
Ooh, Shun looking for an opportunity here. Faker is so pushed up. Knight not going to be able to offer too much back, but really good positioning here from Faker, just taking his exit. Will be able to get himself out.
I mean, it's a nice idea from Shun. T1 thought that Shun was going to be on the bottom side of the map taking the other Scuttle Crab, so Faker was hugging that top side of the lane, but I think once he saw Knight step up, Faker kind of realizing, hang on, something's afoot here, and managing to step away, so good read from the T1 mid laner.
Right, bit of a shove here towards the bottom side of the map as well. Gumushi Carrier going to be able to get this crash, I believe. We'll be able to escort the wave in before they do decide to go back. So a much better start, you could say, if a T1 moving to a slight gold advantage as well, with the amount of extra farm they've been able to pick up.
Yeah, definitely way better. I mean, Faker has not been able to solo kill Knight in the
Dan
matchup,
aja
but
lah.
he does have a CS lead here.
Streamer ngantuk, udah amat lah. Kalah ini T1 anjing.